OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to Wednesday morning's OTB AM. We're here with you every morning from 7:30 until 9:30. If you want to get involved in the conversation, use the hashtag OTB AM. Follow us on Twitter or leave a comment on YouTube. We had a load of YouTube comments yesterday on our piece with you, and we'll play a bit more of that for you in the coming days as well. You can get the full thing on podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. The best place these days, of course, is the Go Loud app or offtheball.com/pods. Kenny Cunningham, special guest this morning. How are you?
Morning, Ger. Owen.
You're a morning person, really, aren't you? When it comes down to it, you do your best work in the morning.
Yeah, very much so. It's a low bar, you're right, but yeah, probably so.
Neither myself or Eoin, it turns out, are really morning people.
I'm a morning person.
You're not.
I am a morning person. I'm just not pleasant at any time of the day. I'm just having to be more pleasant at morning time than I am at night time.
I would have thought you are a morning person. Just in terms, always very well groomed in the morning. It's not he wouldn't say literally drags himself out of his bed.
The kids these days, Kenny, you know.
So thank you very much, Kenny. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me. But
a bit of respect there.
Make sure the selfies work and they look good, you know.
I wouldn't say you're the opposite argument,
exactly,
I wouldn't go that far, but
look, peas in the pod, you and me, Kenny.
Take as you find me.
There definitely hasn't been a caricature done of Ger recently to kind of further that trope.
Look, you know, the truth stings. What can I say? It's been an interesting night, Kenny. You were working on the Palace game. Palace are up to 6th. Is that right? Is that what I read that this morning?
Yeah.
Are they any good?
I really enjoyed the performance last night. I mean, a lot of talk of Palace and how pivotal Sheahan has been previously, and also this season, off the back of the turmoil at the start of the season, with him being linked to what now demanding a move, not happening. Could Hudson get him back on side? If not, Palace were doomed, kind of relegated. Yeah, but I always felt really people were missing the point. I think the biggest personality, the biggest asset that Crystal Palace Football Club is the manager, Hudson. Just in terms of his coaching, his ability to put a team together, in particular the defensive side of the game, organise a team, make him difficult to beat, and get the very best of what's available to him. And that, last night I thought was the best ever example of that. As soon as they lost a man, Sacco kind of first half, it's almost as if they went into lockdown. He just flicked the switch on the touchline, and his team just went into kind of defensive mode for the rest of the game. I thought it was actually hugely impressive. Probably didn't make for a great watch. I'm sure people potentially might have been switching off.
Sacco was sent off after 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was a load. I thought it was deserved. I was working with Damien last night. He had the opposite view. I thought it was a red card personally, but
it was Stonewall, I thought. Even like right over the ball into the shin, wasn't it?
Yeah, I could understand. There was one of them, the ball got away from him, and you're desperately trying to retrieve the situation, but you're kind of travelling at speed. Your kind of legs extended. Yes, he made clear contact with the ball, but the momentum just took him into the player. So for me, it was a red card. But like I said, no kind of panic after that. Palace just dropped into a really solid defensive shape and really just frustrated Bournemouth for the rest of the game. Didn't give up any little or no opportunity, soaked up a huge amount of pressure, and then just looked to pick them off as the game moved on. You just got a sense of maybe they could actually go and win this game. So it was a bit of a tactical masterclass for me, and probably highlighted why Hudson is so important to that football club. If they do stay up for me, it'll be because of him. It won't be because of Wilfred Zaha.
James McCarthy came off the bench at half-time. Did he play well?
Well, this is another amazing because at half-time you're thinking, any changes from Hudson? He brought off Townsend, who was playing right side midfield. Zaha was on the left. 2 banks of 4 and 1 striker once they had the players sent off. Half-time immediately whipped Townsend off and brought James McCarthy on right side in midfield. Again, almost accepting the fact, right, just going to bring a centre midfield in our right side midfield, just asking to sit in there and do his defensive duty, which he did admirably, like, you know what I mean?
So nothing, you can't...
No, exactly, no. Yeah. It wasn't one of those performances. He just needed to sit in there and play a disciplined role for the team. But I was pleased to see him on the pitch, because I'm always looking at James in view from the Irish perspective, thinking, games, he needs time
minutes.
to teach this lad.
Just minutes, we'd be happy.
Yeah, because I still haven't given up on him, so it's good to see him at least get a 45 minutes under his belt.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a bit about Man City. We'll talk about tonight's games with Kenny a little bit later on as well. But if you want to get anything off your chest this morning, now would be a good time to use the hashtag OTBAM. We'll tell you what's coming up on the show in just a minute. Here we are. Yeah, sports pages coming your way. We've got football with Kenny, obviously going to talk about all the big stories. Andy Mitten's going to join us around about 8:05 as well to talk about Manchester United, obviously. Jose Mourinho centre stage at the moment. And sports news then before we put Shane Lowry up against Ireland versus the All Blacks in Chicago. Now, there's clearly only one winner in that, but someone's going to have to play devil's advocate today. Who's that going to be on?
It's certainly not going to be me.
And then Andy Lee is going to join us from California because one of his charges is fighting tomorrow. We'll get the full details on that.
It's Éire Óg's Sean Gannon in conversation with John Duggan there.
Ahead of the Ballyboden match at the weekend. Right, so time for the papers.
OTB AM.
The back page of the Irish Independent. Burn your trophies, the secrets of Gavin's success. So we're starting to get some information. Urging his team to burn their trophies at the end of every season and reading books and motivational theories were just some of the secrets of Jim Gavin's remarkable success as Dublin manager. Gavin made the revelations at the KPMG Irish Independent Property Industry Excellence Awards. There's a mouthful for you. It turned out to be one of his final interviews as Dublin manager. Obviously, we have some key performance indicators. Gavin said last Thursday it was, just 2 days before he announced his decision to step down. We have a high standard of performance we try to aspire to, and that's what drives us on. I always say to the players as well at the start of every season that we have to burn our trophies. Past success does not guarantee that you're going to win the competition again.
On a psychological level, I presume we're speaking there.
Yeah, not
literally.
Yeah.
Bomb for a night.
And then he starts talking about some books that he's read. I'm a big reader of motivational theories. Charles Handy's Sigmoid Curve, where you have to break things up. And the paradox in aviation and sport is that sometimes the learning is in the failure, and it's having that open growth mindset.
Very interesting. You listen to a Jim Gavin podcast series where he just talks to himself about all the things he's learned from his time in sport. So something I would subscribe to. The Daily Telegraph this morning is Brazilian magic. Jesus double strike gives City glimmer of hope in title race. They won 4-1 at Turf Moor last night, and he's back. Mourinho returns to United and could push Solskjaer closer to the exit. Paul Hayward, meanwhile, is writing about this week's big fight in Saudi Arabia, the fatal flaw that could end Joshua's career for good. And Kyle's off. That's Kyle Sinclair there. Quinn's resigned to losing brilliant Sinclair.
Also on the back page of the Indo, don't rush Ryan into the role of Ireland skipper, warns Schmidt. So Joe Schmidt obviously has been doing his book tour, and he says James Ryan has the maturity to assume the Ireland captaincy if asked, but he's warned against rushing him into the role. The one thing I would just be hesitant about is that I wouldn't want to put too much on his shoulders. He's got a great set of shoulders, they're growing all the time, as is the rest of his body. I think it would be great to let him grow into himself before giving that responsibility to him. At the same time, it can help a person grow in stature because they do assume that responsibility. James is a guy that tends to take things in his stride. So that was whether or not I think this was a question, it might have been a question from the crowd. Joe Malloy's doing the interviews. There's one in Limerick as well, maybe tonight actually, or tomorrow night. And one of the questions was who should be the Ireland captain? And James Ryan, he's obviously like, yeah, just maybe not yet.
I think that's fair. I mean, he's only such a short period. He's still only been a...
He's 23, I think. Now, people are saying, but Brian O'Driscoll was 23. It's like, it was a very different time in that there was...
Is there a need? What are the people... Is there some obvious candidates would clearly jump off the page?
Peter O'Mahony and Jonathan Sexton, I would have thought. I would say O'Mahony would be the front runner.
I'd say Sexton's the front runner, to be honest. I think, is O'Mahony guaranteed his spot?
He's not guaranteed a spot, I suppose, but, well, he's going to come in for him. Is he guaranteed a spot if there's a test match in the morning? Yes.
Is he?
Think so.
Well, we don't know what Andy Farrell thinks.
Like, we don't know how he views Rhys Ruddock and what the pecking order is at 6.
I mean, if Joe Schmidt was picking the team tomorrow, you would say...
Peter O'Mahony.
Yeah, but he's not anymore.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Is rugby different to football in terms of in how much style you put on whether the player is actually going to play, is going to be a regular starter?
Yeah, because you've got to have the conversation with the referee. The referee officially addresses the captain around a load of stuff that...
Yeah, you don't get into a situation, you name your captain, suddenly, a month down the road, you pick your first team, he's not in it, and you're putting up a new captain, for the game and things. I don't think that's ideal. It's an obvious thing to say, but I think generally when you choose your captain, I've had kind of club captains and stuff like that, but I think it's an awkward really when you choose your captain, he's not actually leading out the team, he's not in the starting team on a regular basis.
James Ryan is probably going to get the most minutes in 2020 of that trio of Sexton, Peter Mahoney and James Ryan.
But would that be, with Johnny Sexton, you feel, in terms of if he was to go over Sexton and give it to James Ryan, would think that would hurt Sexton a little bit in terms that he'd be passed over? He feels as if maybe he's earned it out of respect to him. He feels, even for a relatively short period of time. How long has Johnny Sexton realistically got in him?
I don't know.
A couple of years, 2 to 4 years at this level?
Yeah. The 4 years would obviously take him up to the next World Cup. He'd be 37, which would be like old in international rugby terms. But like,
you would think in terms of his standing within the squad, the respect he has from the other players, you would feel as if almost that he's earned it, Sexton, for the next 2 to 4 years. And that's the obvious time for James Ryan in terms of what Smith's talking about, to kind of grow into the role in the meantime, and then a natural transition then after that period of time. That's obviously me from the outside looking in, but
the other contender maybe would be Robbie Henshaw. Potentially, like you're thinking about people who've been around the squad for a number of years, for a handful, and will be there for a while. Tyke Furlong is potential another one, but I think in the long term, I think James Ryan is I think if you put age aside, he's got the most captaincy material. Like you can imagine James Ryan having a conversation with a referee and making sense and being calm, even if the referee has just screwed you. And that's one good practical hallmark of a rugby captain.
I do see the point though, but giving him a bit of time to grow into himself, because he still looks like hasn't quite got all of his man strength just yet. Like, he's going to get bigger, he's going to get stronger, he's going to be a more dominant player. In 4 years' time, he'll still only be 27. All things being equal, as a second row, you can go on to 34, you know. So
I still think though, Ger, the biggest factor is kind of how he's perceived within the dressing room amongst the players, his relationship with the players. That's the most important thing. The other thing you're talking about is relationship, how he communicates with the referee. Ger's talking about physically, he's probably not at the peak in terms of his prowess as a player. But for me, it's about how he's perceived by the other players in the dressing room. That's the most important factor. Has he got their ultimate respect? Like? Yeah,
and ultimately we'll never know until the books come out and go, oh, I didn't think that guy was good, or that guy was a bad captain, which they never actually do, as we all know.
Not even in here.
No.
Not even in the studio, Jerry. You can't prize it out of him.
Eventually we do.
Find it hard to believe.
And then the last one here from the Indo back page. FAI staff braced for worst ahead of accounts being published. So the FAI accounts are going to be published. Paul Cook was yesterday put into an executive role, the title of executive lead. So he was obviously the vice president before this, and he's going to fill this role until they get an interim CEO and they appoint the 4 independent board directors, all of which could take quite a while. So
Head
So Paul Cook could be in that job for a while. And the Star, they said he's doing it on a voluntary basis. So fair play to him for doing that. There's just one other thing from inside the Indo that I want to talk about.
He's lashing those expenses though.
No, not at all. I don't think so, Kenny.
Inappropriate comment.
Yeah, exactly. We straight away take that back. Irish Independent here. Record income of 6.1 million helps Kerry to a profit despite 1.4 million spend on teams. This is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you never know after all the stories that have come out in the off-season how well or how badly a county board has been run. But it clearly seems that Kerry have got something resembling a house in good working order. This obviously comes from very, very, very good recruitment of cash outside the country bounds. They do exceptional tours to the United States. A lot of expats who are very passionate about their county.
So why don't Kerry get a lot of crap from everybody about taking money out of the local GAA scene? The way the GPA aren't allowed to do this, but the Kerry County Board are. What's the difference?
Because people would view the GPA to be recruiting for the elite only. And
Kerry are recruiting
GAA,
for...
Well, they pumped the money back into
their team.
County team. They still have a lot of cash that pumps into the club scene in Kerry. Like, I mean, the county board funds everything. It's not just that they're not just taking the money and
the clubs not pay the county board. I mean, they do.
Well, they pay the extra. Everybody pays the extra 10 quid for their All Ireland ticket, as we obviously found out.
But clubs do pay the county board. That's like one of the sources of their revenue. It's not like the county board are paying the clubs for stuff, is it?
Well, not on a kind of day-to-day basis, but if there is anything needed, like it's a very well-run county in terms of
facilities and
facilities. Yeah, like I'd need to. Like, I know a lot of the facilities and stuff come from more national funding bodies, don't they? And especially the big centre developments, they don't actually come from the centre. But like the argument would always be there, especially in the last 10 years, that to keep pace with Dublin, you do need to have a ridiculously strong financial arm.
Yeah, so spare me the Dublin have loads of money argument. Kerry have loads of money too now, right?
What? It's spare you the Dublin have loads of money. Like,
Well, just if you're Kerry. I mean, everybody else can complain about it, but Kerry can't anymore because they're loaded. They're
who from Kerry's been
sloshing
complaining
in the
about
money.
that?
I don't know.
That's a good thing, though, isn't it? So they've been generating huge funds from outside America. You're talking about in terms, what's this like dinners and just general stuff in terms of.
Question: What is this, Kenny? Yeah, what is this? How are they making the money?
You said private money and stuff like that. That's not like private donations, Ran. That's kind of like.
I don't think so. I think it's huge gala dinners in the likes of Boston, Chicago, and New York.
That's perfectly fine, isn't it? Yeah.
They kind of go like a carousel between the three cities, and fair play to them.
Yeah.
Carpet bagging. Well, the argument that the GPA here is that the local GAA scene are annoyed about Irish counties coming over and taking money out of the local GAA scene that could be going into the local GAA scene. Frankly, I think that argument is kind of bunkum on both sides.
Well, so would I. I would agree with the
Kerry taking all the money they can out of America.
But I would also agree with the fact that the GPA can go over, and if it's going towards even, like, people say the elite footballer, but obviously Paul Flynn will come out and say it's for all the inter-county footballers. It's not just your Dublins, your Kerrys and your Mayos. And I think that is the truth, and I think that is fair enough for them to be trying to pump as much money back into the players. Now, if the clubs are seriously being hampered over New York and there is a material impact on what they're doing, then perhaps this needs to be re-evaluated. Like, I'm not sure, was there a specific case where there was specific clubs in the United States saying the GPA need to turn around and go home? I think it was New York, wasn't it?
Well, there was a lot of people here as well.
Right.
Who are using it as a stick to beat the GPA with. Sure, look, that's what they're going to do. The double page spread here from Vincent Hogan on Paul McGrath. Paul still has his dark days, but they seem less stark now, less bruising. He's 60. Paul McGrath, an icon of Irish sport, has made it to 60. There's a picture of Vincent Hogan and Paul McGrath picking up the Sports Book of the Year award back from the brink, and there's an interesting part here from Vincent at the start of this piece. There's two final sentences that the book finishes with. The past is unchangeable. It's time to stop looking behind. Everything you need to understand about Paul McGrath is maybe written in those 10 words. And he says he didn't want to call it back from the brink because he didn't actually feel like McGrath was back just yet. It felt like he was still living a life of chaos, of recklessness, followed by the most profound episodes of self-loathing. I argued against the publisher's title choice, given that it implied arrival at some point of resolution. In reality, the journey was still ongoing and routinely traumatic, but he says he's in a much better place now, living down in Wexford. And
yeah, I suppose that's the most important thing. He's still here with us. It's a great photo there, like big smile, which I'll always remember. All around the hotel, yeah.
He was in the squads when you were just getting in?
I played me for a while. It's one of the standout moments of my career, to be honest with you. Yeah, my first 2 games I played with Paul. Only 2 friendly games, nothing games. Nobody will remember them. Czech Republic away and Wales away, funny enough, a miserable midweek. Cardiff Arms, attendance must have been 6,000-7,000. Horrible even for football, lashing rain, but I was 10 feet tall because that was the last time I played with Paul. 2 games kind of back to back, and it was great. I loved it.
Where was he playing? Centre back at that stage?
Oh, centre. We played the back 3 in the Czech Republic. Phil Babb was the other one there, and we played together as a pair, I think, Wales, and it was great. Good talk. I mean, a lot of talk about Paul being how quiet he was, and I wouldn't say boo type thing, and he wasn't a shouter or a screamer, but yeah, it gave me a lot of good information. That
What was he saying?
Just the basic stuff, and just like patting the back, even the smallest thing. Well done, grey header, good tackle. You know, meant a huge amount coming from Paul, because like I said, I wouldn't have any idols as such, generally speaking. But
you're allowed to have Paul McGrath as one. That you can make an exception in his case.
No, I love Paul as a footballer. I mean, we didn't share any attributes, obviously, but yeah, the level that he played and just his backstory. I mean, I read the book. One of the very few kind of biographies, footballing biographies I've ever read. But yeah, I was interested in the man. Obviously, like having a very didn't have a relationship of sorts with him, but like being a teammate for a short period of time. Yeah, obviously very interested in his backstory, and yeah, difficult read at times. Obviously, yeah, I understand the comments that you've made there make a lot of sense. But like I said, the most important thing, he's still here with us and having his good days. Yeah,
no, it's great, and it certainly seems that he's in a better place. In terms of his performances for Ireland, sorry, before we get to that, did you play against him? Would you have been in games like? Were you at Wolves or were you at Wimbledon or Birmingham when you were playing for Ireland?
I
with
think
him?
I might have played against him, yeah, because I went to the Premiership. When did I go through? 93, I think I signed for Wimbledon in the Prem. I think I made my international debut in 96 when Paul was still playing, so he might have still been hanging. Where was his last club, Paul? He left Villa. Where did he end up?
Derby County.
5 or 6.
Derby. I think I might have played against him at Derby.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Paul was... It's easy to say, I don't think we must realise how good he is. I think we do, generally speaking.
I'd say there's a generation of people who don't really fully understand how amazing...
Maybe that generation, teenagers now, maybe early 20s, maybe when you haven't seen somebody play live, no recollection, somebody playing live on a kind of week-to-week basis, and you're just going off clips here and there. I don't think you get a sense of how good players were. Paul was like... I don't think there was anybody better than Paul in terms of centre-half, midfield. Centre-half, I'd say, predominantly. You could argue maybe midfield in terms of, was he that ball-playing centre midfield player? Probably not so much, although he found it easy in any area of the pitch. But as a centre-half, he was absolutely phenomenal. Hadn't got a weakness. He really hadn't got a weakness in his game. Speed over the ground, calmness... Reading the game was absolutely phenomenal.
Unbelievably strong. I think that's that. Is that his last game for Ireland? The 2-0 defeat against Holland at Anfield. Is that Jack's last game? Maybe, I don't know, did he play on after
Like
that?
I said, that's what I did a couple of games. I think in 97 I would have played with him because I wasn't playing at this time. So I would have played a couple of games after this with him, and I think maybe he might have stepped aside
So that must have been
after that, yeah. But the lads have seen, the lads who played with him obviously speak better than me. But
He actually went on to Sheffield United after Derby County.
There's a load of different clubs for short periods at that stage.
we talk about now, centre halves now in the modern game, ball playing centre halves. We talk about the dearth of quality defenders, how you're pigeonholed now as a centre half, even a midfielder in terms of attacking midfielder, and he's a holding midfielder, or he's a ball playing centre half, or he's just a bog standard, rudimentary centre half. But people like Paul and his ilk just could do anything, could do everything, could defend, knew how to defend, enjoyed the defending, comfortable on the ball, could play, just could do it all.
Unbelievably strong. The thing that stands out for me is that everybody who played beside him ended up having their best seasons. So Sean Teal was a defender at Aston Villa.
That's right.
That everybody was like, "Oh, this guy's really good," and then he left, and it was like, "Hang on a second, you're absolutely no good at all compared to what you were like beside him." Phil Babb looked amazing in that World Cup. Gets the move on the basis of, I think, of that really in those performances, and then isn't as good as he looked beside Paul.
But I think that people like that, I think the biggest asset those people have is the reading of the game. Because when you say, what does that mean, they make you look good? Well, they make you look good because any small mistake which you might make in terms, you make a poor decision in terms of positional sense, maybe trying to anticipate a ball in front, the ball gets played in behind, your man spins in behind, normal circumstances, he gets in and goalie scores, everybody's pointing the finger at you, you've made a massive mistake. Someone like a Paul McGrath would read the situation. That ball over your head, which you haven't anticipated, he's sweeping across the back, wins possession of the ball, it's gone. There's nothing spoken about. You haven't made a mistake and it hasn't been isolated. People haven't pointed the finger, and that's how he makes you look good, because he plays your game for you. But I think it comes down to that type of player. For me, has to be an exceptional reader of the game, because that's how that type of player gets you out of trouble, particularly at centre half, having that type of player around you.
I saw him play for Villa against Spurs, and Spurs had Gary Lineker playing, and Villa went 3-0 up with a David Platt hat-trick. Lineker got taken off at that stage. Paul McGrath was just like killing him. They ended up getting back to 3-2, but I'd never seen a striker who was as important as Gary Lineker was to that Spurs team. He was the best player by a mile, being taken off in the game, like in a league game.
Yeah.
And nobody was surprised to get taken off because McGrath just swallowed him.
Yeah.
There was some of Roy Keane's performances for Ireland. You think of the Holland game, you think of the Portugal game at home, were as dominant as the McGrath performances were for Ireland. But nobody else that I can remember playing for Ireland would be as dominant against their direct opponent or anybody who came into their area as McGrath was.
Because he had all the tools, Jerry. I spoke about, I thought he was a very, very good reader of the game. You've spoken about his physical strength there. It didn't strike me as one of Paul Ness who was in the gym. Alton just had that natural kind of body strength and speed. Had the speed as well. So you marry all those things together, kind of speed, physical body strength, can't be intimidated, and actually a very good reader of the game. really there's nowhere to go there. There's a Lineker who was exceptionally quick, timing of his runs was absolutely exceptional. That's where he obviously got all of his goals. But of course, Paul, because of those qualities, could counteract that. So it's everything you really want in a centre half. That, like I said, he had everything. That's what I mean. He had everything.
Yeah. All right.
Guardian this morning goes with "I'm not a villain or the enemy." Jose Mourinho turns on the charm before return to Old Trafford, and there's a picture there as well of Gabriel Jesus celebrating one of his goals in Manchester City's 4-1 bid at Burnley. City's title bid is resurrected, reads the headline.
If you want some more Paul McGrath goodness coming your way at 1 o'clock today, we'll bring you a very special Paul McGrath interview from OTB Gold on the Go Loud app or on offtheball.com/radio to listen live. The back page of the Herald this morning: job cuts fear for FAI staff. This is the grim reality. FAI staff are braced for the worst, including the axing of key programmes as well as job cuts, after Minister for Sport Shane Ross again said there was still no prospect of government funding being restored. Vice President Paul Cook has been appointed as the interim head of the association with the title of executive lead, but Cook's appointment has not placated Ross, who has called for complete regime change, especially as the FAI say Cook will report directly to President Donald Conway. Ross has repeatedly called for Conway to step down, and they have Conor McKeown has a story here. John Costello and Sean Shanley will head up the subcommittee to be ratified tomorrow night and tasked with identifying Jim Gavin's replacement as Dublin senior football manager. That's what you'd expect. It's the CEO and the county board chairman. And so they say they're going to cast a wide net and speak to as many interested parties as possible, but they do hope to make an appointment on or before annual convention on Thursday week. So it's Dessie Farrell or Pat Gilroy's, right? That's it.
You would have thought so.
Yeah. Anything else would be a massive shock. Well,
It would be, actually, yeah.
Jason Sherlock be a huge shock?
I think it would be, if the two boys are in the mix. I think it would be a bit of a shock, given the managerial experience of Dessie Farrell through underage teams, and obviously Pat Gilroy's experience as an All-Ireland winning manager. I just think their credentials as the number one on the sideline is just far superior. But Jason Sherlock will have his eyes on this job eventually, and when is the right time for you to step up and become the number one? Is it actually after being the Mayor Forna for Jim Gavin right after he's retired, and given, like, he actually knows these players and their current guys?
Would they take Jim's views into consideration? Would that conversation be had? Would Jim sit down with the board in terms of offering an opinion in terms of the way forward for Dublin, or would he totally detach himself from that process?
Question. I'd say if they asked him to, he would, but it doesn't strike me like he'd be saying, "No, look, you have to give it to this guy because he'll continue our work." You know,
he's not Alex Ferguson.
No.
In that sense, I feel. I don't think he'll
it's
be.
An interesting one, like, yeah.
Like, I think Sherlock, maybe he knows that the bunch of players actually better than Gilroy and Farrell at this point, because he's obviously worked with them more recently, and maybe that makes him a candidate as well. So I think that it will be a shock if he got it, but anyone outside of those three will become something in the ballpark of huge shock.
Yeah, and Conor McKeown confirms last night that Brian Fenton was the second player the first to publicly comment. Obviously, there had been an Instagram post from Paul Mannion, which is just a photograph with no comment. In a post on his Instagram account last night, Brian Fenton said, "Forever grateful to this man who gave me the chance to live out a boyhood dream and have some of the best days of my life. Exciting chapter ahead with hopefully many more great days to come." So,
Philly McMahon, I think, commented as well.
Did he?
Last night. Also offering his congratulations to Jim Gavin on a great...
They've been quiet, haven't they? I thought they'd all be coming out kind of saying this was amazing.
Is there any role for Jim going forward? Not necessarily Dublin, but in terms of the guy, generally speaking, on a national level. I mean, such an exceptional manager and obviously a great thinker and huge qualities. I mean, obviously he'll probably detach himself for a short period of time. I understand that, but I mean, going forward, is that him? Is that his relationship now with...
Well, he'll be involved with the club. Like, as far as I know, he's taken one of the underage teams, like one of the very young teams in his local club. But it does seem like it's
apart from that, I'm talking about in the higher echelons of the game.
You'd like to think there's room for somebody like that, wouldn't you?
It's a good shout. It's actually something that hasn't been spoken about all week. But when the next DG role is up for grabs in years and years' time, in fairness, once Tom Ryan has done his job, I wonder, is Jim Gavin one of the names you would automatically throw into the hat? Because, like, Liam Sheedy was one of the names, obviously, that was thrown in automatically. But I know that kind of comes from his professional background, perhaps.
Sheedy works in the bank.
Yeah, like, was there a management role or something in the bank that kind of...
Yeah, a big job in the bank, like, in fairness.
Yeah. But, like, and is Jim Gavin's role similar, or is it, like, I don't know if the professional aspect plays anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't be leaning on that. I understand the
Yeah.
point you make. I wouldn't be thinking of that primarily, just in terms of how he can impact the game on a bigger stage. I know he's been linked with Dublin clearly, so, and he's perceived to be a big Dublin man, the manager, and very heavily invested in the Dublin scene for a long period of time. But the little bit I know of Jim, clearly bigger picture stuff, he's got a huge. I'm sure he's got it in terms of the well-being of the game and the going forward on a national level, just in terms of all of the counties and where we're going. And
Yeah.
maybe he'd have some kind of input. Clearly he would. He'd have an opinion and maybe even ideas and clear ideas, pathways in terms of where we need to go for the good of the whole of the.
It's a great idea, Kenny.
Well, it's not. It's an easy thing to say. I know
but
what
it's
you
a great
mean, but
idea. I
he's-
don't think, like,
He's such a key figure, like not just for Dublin, but I think he's been bigger than Dublin. I think really, like, you know what I mean.
The terrifying thing is if he becomes CEO of Dublin GAA, and that's the thing that Dublin should probably be doing, is to try and keep him in-house rather than whatever. I'm sure he'll take some time out of the kind of high-octane nature of being involved with GAA all the time. But when he goes back, like, I'd agree, I think it's something that the GAA itself should be looking at. But to get there before them is something that Dublin GAA should probably be considering for their own house, I think.
Kenny's saying it's bigger than that, though.
It is bigger than that. Like, he is...
The Philly McMahon Instagram post was, sorry, what a journey this man has helped us go on. The person he is, he will want to continue. And then a blue love heart.
The Racing Post this morning has a picture of Undersow on the front, looking to make history in Tasty Tingle Creek Clash, looking to become the oldest horse to land the prestigious Grade 1 contest. Back of the Racing Post then is Red and Buried. Anfield defeat could be final straw for Silva. It's an 8:15 kick-off tonight between Liverpool and
8:15
Everton.
kick-off.
Oh, big games tonight, midweek football. Woo!
Well, you can get the first half of United Spurs, and then
Oh, you know,
you can get a game and a half in full, which is a good opportunity for anybody who likes football.
I think in terms of expected, I think the Spurs United game could be actually, say, so-called better game. You know what I mean? I
definitely
think
will
in
be.
terms of end-to-end, maybe more of an open, go get him, go at him type of game. I think probably United, Liverpool maybe a little bit more, kind of tacked a bit more tense, I think, but as a spectacle. But yeah, two massive games. Different reasons.
The Daily Mirror, the back page this morning. VAR is a mess. Seferin, it's time to draw a line on technology for offside and handball calls. UEFA President Alexander Seferin has revealed he does not like VAR and labelled it a mess. Maybe we're coming to the end of the VAR era. Jesus in his prime. Gabriel Jesus delivered the perfect package for Pep Guardiola as Manchester City lit up Amazon Prime's opening night of Premier League coverage. Burnley 1, Man City 4 there, and Ross still wants more from the FAI. So, Jose, I'm not the enemy to the Reds. He's gone on a PR offensive, I think it's fair to say. It's like, oh, no, I was very happy living in my, holed up in my penthouse in the Lowry.
Rapunzel.
The Irish Daily Mail back page is a free rescue. Interim FAI Chief Cook will work without a salary, so he's agreed to work for the FAI without pay as the effective interim CEO of the embattled association. Jesus stars as Slick City dominate, and that's pretty much it. Hurley's dreams of All-Ireland glory, meanwhile, drove him through dark days. That's in their Gaelic game section.
The London Times, Wenger, it is time to use VAR screens. I mean, come on, it's pretty easy.
Do me a favour.
Pretty easy. Well, they can just watch it on the side and tell everybody what's
As
going
if
on.
this is the answer. As long as fans can see it, that's it. It'll
Well,
all be.
Rugby works fine. Do you not think rugby works fine?
I've no interest. I'm watching it at home on the telly. I've no interest, and it's boring me to tears.
Do we not think that...
I'd rather be in the stand,
not get the right,
not having the pictures.
Not
And
get
all
the right
honesty.
answer though. You not get the right answer. Like,
The right answer.
this was offside or not offside. That was a handball. That wasn't a handball.
Do we not get a heap of...
It's not the offside's not the problem. It's the subjective calls, like in terms of opinion based. How different referees interpret different decisions. That's never going to go away.
Like, we got a load of right... I thought VAR worked really well last weekend, except for the Southampton handball, which led to a goal, obviously, which is a fairly big error to make. But outside of that,
No.
I thought that it had a good
No.
weekend.
No,
We'll come back.
it's a
We'll come back
mess.
to this. We'll come back to this.
Back page of the Sun is fantasy football. Ole has won 6-22, but says the United supporters are not losing faith. And Jesus' cheeky double. There he is celebrating with Raheem Sterling. And Jose is...
What is a cheeky double?
it's
Drink reference.
In terms of the type of goals he scored, was it cheeky finishes?
Nah,
Would you describe it as cheeky
no.
finishes?
The first one
I haven't
was
seen them.
absolutely glorious.
I was working on the other game.
Oh,
So two glorious finishes might have been better headline. What's the play on the cheeky?
Because Sterling is pinching
Oh,
his
give me
cheeks,
that.
squeezing his
Gotcha.
cheeks there.
I'm with you now. Gotcha. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, there you go.
Right, very good. We've got Andy Mitten coming up next. The Irish Times, their paper, they've got a... Lowry is soaking up knowledge, world-class Kearney, and they also have Gordon Darcy's column today. As Europe's big guns start to grow their own, Irish provinces need to find new way of evolving. Maybe they could buy London Irish. We've got Andy Mitten coming up next. Have a look.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station. Off the ball.
Salah takes the shot. Oh, Mo Salah with one of the goals of the season. 25 yards out.
If you throw your lot in and play senior international football with somebody, that should be the end of it.
That's brilliant. Oh my goodness me. You will not see a better try.
Who will be All-Ireland champions? Who will see their dreams turn into reality? Whose names will be etched in history forever?
OTB Live. Never miss the action right here. Every Saturday and Sunday on Off the Ball.
From true crime believers to science and business achievers, sports, arts and comedy to the latest entertainment wannabe. Get political, get healthy, get educated. Get all your favourite podcasts on Go Loud. Download the Go Loud app now or add us on your smart speaker. Go Loud. Podcasts, radio and music to your ears.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Marshall lacks something. What I'd say is lacks aggressiveness, physicality. Use yourself, all your traits, every ounce of what you have to challenge the defenders. I don't get that from him. I get excellence now and again on the ball and a little bit of intent, but not enough. So are they making progress? I'd say a small bit of progress, but until they've better players. I mean, look, Brandon Williams not good enough to be playing the Manchester United sports team at the moment for me. And I look at the bench today, and I go, right. So who's going to come on? Like Mata's fine, but his best days are behind him. But you look at the bench today and you go, oh my God, Jesse Lingard, come on, add a bit of life and a bit of zest to it in the front line. Ashley Young, defender. Luke Shaw, coming back from injury, not in great shape. Mason Greenwood, potential, definitely. Win the match for you? No, not today. Garner, midfield player for the Europa League and League Cup matches, I'd say, at the moment. And Tuanzebe, potential, but not for Manchester United to win or to do something significant at the moment. There's too much about potential at the moment and not enough about quality and the now.
Yeah, the issue about the now is certainly one we're going to get into with Andy Mitten, who joins us. Andy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Let's talk a little bit about where Manchester United are at the moment ahead of this game against Spurs and Jose Mourinho tonight, because it seems to me as if the board have decided that they're going to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer time, and that's why he's happy enough to play these players with potential. And it feels to me that he's actually quite secure. Now that's just a completely, looking at it from the outside, that might be completely wrong, and if they lose tonight, maybe the board make a rash decision and decide, okay, you're not the guy for us. But because he is playing the players who have potential and because he is picking younger players, then there's at least a plan and there's at least a sense that the club are going in a direction with an overarching plan and an attempt to do something. Is that completely wrong?
No, not at all. It's right, and he's playing the players he's got partly because of injuries and partly because his squad lacks the quality that's needed. So that's why you're seeing Fred and Andreas Pereira, who are not great midfielders, playing all the time. And that's why you're seeing results as poor as they are. 4 wins out of 14 league games. It isn't good enough for Manchester United. And I've maintained throughout this season that while Ole Gunnar is building for the long term and putting the foundations in and will get support and patience, he still needs results in the short term. It's not unconditional. Manchester United cannot be relegated this season. If you're playing Aston Villa at home, a team with the worst away record in the league, it's not unreasonable to expect Manchester United to win. And it's quite delicate, and the results set the mood. If the team are winning, then the fans are happy to be patient, and yet at the same time, no fan expects a title challenge. I think fans probably expecting 6th or 7th this season. But even to finish 6th or 7th, you need to be putting good runs together. You need to be getting a string of results. And if we would have spoken a week ago, I would have been far more optimistic than now. The defeat in Astana, you can't hold that too much against the young players. But 3 times in a week, Manchester United were in a winning position and they failed to win the game. And it's becoming a hallmark of the team. At the start of the season, after 4 games, the coaches were of the opinion that they'd been unlucky, that they should have 9 or 12 points, and maybe the other point. But we're 14 games in now, and it's the same old. That 4 wins from 14 in the league is a horrendous statistic. They've done far better in the Cup. They've done well to qualify for the Europa League. They've done well in the League Cup. That away win at Chelsea was fantastic. But that has to be minimum requirements. And Tottenham at home tonight, the stage is set for Jose Mourinho to come and try and get his revenge. And that will, if Tottenham win, that will whack the mood again. And then you go into the Manchester derby. That said, some of United's best performances have been against the best teams this season. They're the only team to take points off Liverpool. They've beaten Leicester. They've beaten Chelsea. It's against some of the weaker teams that Manchester United are struggling.
It's interesting, Andy, because it's totally right in saying that the personnel isn't there to launch a title challenge. Perhaps the personnel isn't there with the best manager of all time to even kind of get into the top 3, perhaps this year, the way the points have gone already. But what Manchester United perhaps can change over the next couple of months is behind the scenes when it comes to staff, when it comes to boardroom. Is there any suggestion at all that Solskjaer might mix up his coaching team, or Woodward might mix up his coaching team for him, or anything like that?
No, but they're not gonna make something like that. They're not even gonna leak it. I mean, I wrote yesterday that the coaching staff, Kieran McKenna, Michael Carrick, they're good at the job. They're respected, but they're almost too nice. What they need, and I say this having spoken to a lot of people who know what's going on, is maybe someone who's a bit harder on them. Someone like Carlos Queiroz, who wasn't liked by the players, but he was respected by the players. He was a hard man. He called them all by the second name. Giggs, come here. Neville, don't do that. And they thought, who on earth is this guy to say this to us? But actually, he was getting a winning machine together. They wanted to prove him wrong. They felt slighted by him, and that helped them. There's a criticism of the coaching staff. It's that they're lacking that. And I get reports every day. It's my job to do that. Fred's training really well. And he's not had a bad month, Fred, but is he a Roy Keane class midfielder? No, not at all. The team is lacking in midfield, and that's why they're getting up a run in matches. That's why the defence is being exposed. That's why they've started to concede goals, and then affects the confidence. That said, there's very good young players. I like what Ole Gunnar's doing. I like Ole Gunnar. I had a big chat with him off the record a couple of weeks ago, more as a fan than a journalist, and I came away from that encouraged. But I think he needs time. I think he needs 3, 4, 5 transfer windows, and I wonder whether there's the patience for that in the current climate when United is geared towards Champions League football, and they don't look like getting Champions League football this season unless you can win the Europa League. I'm more doubtful of that than I was in 2017. Jose Mourinho, he pulled off a tactical masterstroke. How he went to that Europa League, he planned it meticulously, and especially in the final against that young Ajax team, he really did a number on them, and that got them in the league next year. United can't be missing out on the Champions League season after season.
Andy, do you mind me asking you? I'm always interested. Obviously, you're near the coalface there than I am. The Paul Pogba situation. You know, you're talking about the midfield there. That there's the talent, which I'd agree with you. But there's one player who can kind of elevate Manchester United to a different level, particularly in that central midfield area. It's Paul Pogba with his qualities and his kind of personality. What's your gut feeling in terms of his future going forward? It seems as if it's coming to a natural conclusion now. Either they're going to build a team around him going forward for the next kind of 3 or 4 years, or they need to make a decision and get him out the door in the summer. What's your gut feeling in terms of how it's going to go?
Well, he wants to leave, and the club don't want to sell him. And I think there are a lack of suitors willing to pay the sort of money that if United did sell him, they would want. And Paul himself, when he's owned, is not a bad influence. He's professional, he's polite. The feeling at Manchester United is that the people advising him are a negative influence, and that's never really changed. Sir Alex Ferguson held that opinion in 2012, which led him going to Juventus. As you say, he's very talented. He is being missed at the moment, as is Scott McTominay. But do you build a team around someone who wants to leave? It's a really difficult conundrum. And then who do you replace him with? There's not a lot of Pogba-class midfielders who are ready, waiting to come to Manchester United, a pretty average team who are struggling to get a win at the moment.
Yeah, but Andy, I don't understand this. I don't understand. You've just mentioned there his heart's not in, he doesn't want to be there, he wants to move, but the club won't sell him unless they get the price. But that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Someone with his kind of personality, his presence in the dressing room, you can't have somebody, such an integral figure in the dressing room, whose heart isn't with the football club. You know, he doesn't want to be there in the short to medium term. So I understand they probably want a ridiculous figure, but for me, bigger picture is they've got to make a statement. They've got to get him out the door in the summer, get the best fee that they can, and start to build again. I mean, otherwise it's just it's ridiculous.
I agree with that, and that's the way that football's traditionally been done. And I've no doubt that Sir Alex Ferguson would have got rid of Paul Pogba, but the team isn't as strong as it was when Pogba was there. They've been through this a couple of times before. They've known he's wanted to leave for a couple of years now, and that hasn't stopped him playing well when he's played. He is professional. He's not going on strike. He's not going out to discos and drinking all the time. When he plays, he does well. But it's not just Pogba who wants to leave. You've got feeding into that Anthony Martial, who's influenced by Paul Pogba. Again, he's someone who also wanted to leave. The club refused to sell him. He has played good games since then. So it is far from an ideal situation, and I cannot pretend otherwise.
Look, we keep coming back to who ends up being responsible for the transfer policy. And you're saying Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs multiple transfer windows. Who would be the person whose job it is to make sure that the players they're signing are players of the right character, who are going to come in and add to the squad mentality, as opposed to players who will come for 18 months and then decide they want to get out again?
Well, Ole Gunnar has the final say on everything, and I spoke at length with Ed Woodward about this. And United are identifying the targets early. To be fair to them, the last three recruitments have done well, not exceptionally few. And Harry Maguire, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Dan James, they've looked positive signings, and they're planning on who they're going to sign next year. Woodward told me that it's going to be difficult to bring players in January. That baffles fans because they see other clubs bringing players in January. But look at United's recent record in the transfer window in January. Alexis Sanchez was a disaster. Juan Mata was signed in similar circumstances when United were desperate under David Moyes. He's been a decent signing, no better than that. And if they feel they can bring the three players they're looking at for next summer, suddenly you've got three more stronger players. The money's there to buy players, absolutely. And the club hope that the young lads will continue to progress, that Tuanzebe will get better. Brandon Williams certainly looks encouraging. Mason Greenwood is encouraging. But he's only 17. This is Manchester United. And they are looking at players. They're identifying the players. They just think it's going to be difficult to bring them in January.
Last question for you. What's going to happen tonight when Jose Mourinho rocks into town and knows exactly how to beat this Manchester United team?
He'll get a decent reception unless he plays a pantomime villain. He's been back to Old Trafford since. The fans have sung his name. He would love revenge. Served sweet, served cold tonight. And if Tottenham are as good as they were at Old Trafford last year when they won 3-0, although United didn't play that badly, it's going to be a pretty awful night at Old Trafford. I think that tactically, Mourinho is probably superior to Solskjaer. But every time I start to feel despondent about this Manchester United team, they do pull a draw out against Liverpool. They do get a win. They do beat Leicester. They do beat Chelsea on the opening day of the season. It hasn't been happening often enough, but they really need a big performance. They need to avoid defeat at Old Trafford tonight. They need to win because they're drawing too many matches and they're not winning enough matches. And they're only in the top 10 because other teams are equally as inconsistent. I think 10 or 11 of the teams have only won 4 of their matches. Manchester United are in that group. They shouldn't be.
Andy, good stuff. Enjoy the game tonight if that's possible. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Andy Mitten there, giving us some thoughts on that. We tweeted out that that quote from Andy that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs 3, 4, 5 transfer windows, but will he get that? Jan Åge Fjørtoft has just got involved on Twitter. He needs to get the right players in those windows. After Alex Ferguson, there have been a lot of windows and there have been a lot of money spent. This is the issue, that they're like, if they change now, unless they have Pochettino lined up, or unless they have somebody who's going to come in and go, right, this is exactly what I'm going to do, this is my plan, these are the 5 players I'm going to have to buy, these are the players I'm getting rid of, Unless they have that, they've got to stick with what they have.
Well, this is the interesting thing. I'd be fascinated in terms of the conversations Woodward's having with the owners at this point, because the spectre of Pochettino now, publicly yesterday, I understand he came out in Argentina and made a comment he wants to get back in. He wants to get back in quick. So he's thrown it out there in terms of the fact, look, you better come and get me now, because I'm not going to be still looking for a job next summer.
Yeah.
So I'll be amazed if Woodward or people close to him, intermediaries, whatever you want to call them, agents, and sounding out Pochettino in terms of, look, no point in sacking Solskjaer now, going to Pochettino and finding out, look, I'm not interested. You know what I mean?
That would be a very Ed Woodward thing to do.
Yeah. I've always felt Solskjaer would stay till the end of the season, because I thought they've invested too much in him publicly. Woodward's come out and backed him. It'd be humiliation, custard pies all around if they were to sack him now. But I think the only argument you could make, if it was a case similar to Mourinho, I'd say, at Tottenham, I don't think it was a great desire amongst Daniel Levy to get rid of Pochettino. I don't think it was a case that Pochettino has to go now. This whole thing is broken. I need to move him on now. But I think it was the fact that Mourinho was available, and he knew in all probability he wouldn't be available for too much longer, that he felt, I'll make the decision now. I don't want to get rid of him now, but Mourinho's my man. I want him. I need to go and get him now. So he made that tough call. And I see certain similarities in terms of Pochettino now and potentially Manchester United. I'm not too sure whether Woodward's got the kahunas that Daniel Levy has to make that decision now, though. I still think Solskjaer will be in the job at the end of the season, but whether Pochettino will still be available then, I'm not too sure.
It's interesting the point he makes about needing a Carlos Queiroz type character, a bad cop almost. I think they had a bad cop as their manager is there for a little while, and things didn't go down too well with a lot of the players.
You can't have the bad cop be in charge.
I'm not too sure of that one, to be honest with you. Queiroz probably has a very good reputation as a coach, but I don't look at Manchester in terms of the tactical setup and think, oh, he's all over the place, they don't know what they're doing. What the hell, which way are they playing? I think he's had some success. Exactly. You've made the point. For me, it's just in terms of the talent, the qualities which they have in certain areas of the pitch, it just isn't there. I don't quite buy into the kind of 3, 4, 5. I mean, many years is that. 5 transfer winners, that's like 2, 3 years, isn't it? It's not for me. For me, it's like 3 or 4 top quality players. And you can actually do that in one transfer window. If they're tagging those players, they could bring in those 3, 4 players, 2 top class central midfield players, potentially a centre forward as well, if you don't feel as if Martial and Rashford are the answer
you can finance that by selling Pogba and Martial.
Yeah, and Pogba's key again for me. I wouldn't quite agree with, in terms of saying about Pogba when he plays, he's top man. I watched Pogba early in the season, third gear. He was in third gear. He wasn't a happy man. He hadn't down tools, but he wasn't playing at the level that he needed to. And if his attitude around the place, spoken about the effect that has on other players, I mean, that's even worse. If you're saying the way he carries himself in the dressing room actually has a direct impact on the younger players, the likes of Martial and others, for me, that's even a stronger argument.
Yeah.
Is sitting Pogba down and say, look, are you totally committed to this project? I'm prepared to build this team around you. It's going to take maybe 2 to 3 years to get it back to the level in terms of league titles. Are you prepared to invest in it? Do you buy into it? Are you going to be part of that? The answer is no. You get him out. You get the best fee you can get. You get a reasonable fee. You're not going to give Pogba away for 25 million.
No.
You're going to get 80 to 100 million for Paul Pogba. Take it, suck it up and reinvest it.
Yeah. And there's loads of players out there, like...
Well, Christian Eriksen is the name that obviously comes to mind, given the headlines that we've seen this week.
No, he's not the player. Manchester United need top-class central midfield. I'd thrown... and he said there's no players out there like Sal Niguez, I think. Remember, Mourinho, Manchester United was linked to him. He's one of the best around for me. He's central midfield, all type. Holds midfield, he can get forward, physical player, left footer. Lovely player. There's plenty of them out there. Not easy to get. You understand that United's position maybe won't be able to guarantee Champions League football. Have to play premium wages, yakety yak. We understand all that, but they're out there. Just go and get them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to bring you this quick clip from Pat Nevin talking about the form of Mo Salah at the moment.
The team, Mo Salah's unrecognisable at the moment. Absolutely unrecognisable. It's like it's a different. That's Mo Salah's twin brother that's playing out there at the moment, and I've been waiting for this to happen for a long, long, long time. You know, he's not had a break for 2 summers, is it? Maybe even 3. But playing all the way through and all the games, going away to internationals as well. He looked absolutely gone. He looked knackered. I know he's got a problem with his ankle as well, which is adding to it. But if on that performance, he wouldn't get a game in the next game. He wouldn't be playing against Everton. So they need him back, and they need to make sure that they sneak by that one. They could have lost a couple of points easily in that one, because when they went down to 10 men, it was absolute and utter panic stations there, and the tension around the ground at Anfield, it was actually really noticeable, even at 2-0. I mean, even before the sending off, before the goal, It was really noticeable, the tension around the ground. And I know it's a cliche, but Liverpool fans know their football. They could feel it coming, and it had been really quiet. And you could hear that they started singing, and it was a real kind of, we need to help the team here. So it may well be that, they did enough to help the team, but around Anfield, people can feel it.
Can feel that there's a crash coming.
But it's not.
There's a dark rain coming.
This is classic careful what you wish. Every football supporter you talk about, you start talking about, oh, great, whoa, no, whoa, steady. No. There's almost that self-defence mechanism, but really it's based on nothing. I understand they're not playing at the level they were, certainly second half last season. I understand that individual players playing not at the level Salah, Pat mentioned there, maybe one or two others. Yeah, I understand that. But for me, do you know what? It's actually irrelevant. The biggest factor Liverpool winning the title, I still think they win the league title this season. It's not about the individual form of one or two players around the pitch or the amount of pressure, the tension that's building up. It's that collective spirit, togetherness, that drive that they have that's coming from the manager, that's driving the whole dressing room, that absolute hunger and determination that this is it. This is their year. That league title is ours. By hook or by crook, in terms of level of performance, it doesn't matter. We'll get it done.
If you have the fixture schedule that they have over the next month with the trip to the World Club Championships, do you give Mo Salah a month off and say, we're going to need you for the second half of the season? Go off, go and lie on the beach for 2 weeks, come back, do a little bit of light training for a week, then get back up to sharpness, and we'll give you an extra week where we won't start you. So I'm going to have you ready for the... I know you're risking injury, but is this the bit where they just go, the World Club Championship is great to be in, but actually, if we win a World Club Championship and don't win the league, at the end of the year, how are we going to feel?
Yeah, but I don't buy into the World Club Championship. It's going to be a massive drain on Liverpool. I really don't. I'm going to take two teams over there. They're going to be playing at 60-70%. They're going to be away, warm weather. You just talk about Salah. For me, I'd agree. I don't know the extent of his injury, small injury, which he's carrying. Clearly, they got a big physio staff around them, and they'll know exactly what the problem is. If it means taking Salah over to the Middle East with them and saying, look, you're not going to play, just get into the pool, just relax, do a little bit of rehab, light sessions, wherever it is. That's an ideal time to do it. Actually taking the team away, warm weather, pulling the whole squad together for a short period of time, I actually think it can only benefit them. They're not going to be ultra competitive, the games either. If you look at the Premier games that they have during the next month, probably only the Leicester game, I think Stevens Day actually jumps out at you. I think it's a reasonably decent fixture list which they have as well. I think they can actually benefit for me actually going and winning another trophy. Now people might say a profile of the World Club, whatever it is, really, but it's a trophy. It's another trophy. It's another medal in your back pocket flying back to Liverpool. For me, that's huge in terms of that kind of, that kind of self-confidence, that belief within the squad. This is our time, another trophy on you go. It's more momentum for me. So for me, it's actually a good thing. This month for me, it's everything that you dream as a player. Imagine being a Liverpool player looking at this run of fixtures coming towards you now. You couldn't wait. You'd be licking your lips. It's the position every player wants to be in. So I think you have to look at it from a positive. I'm sure Klopp will. I'm sure that's what we'll hear from him. The Carabao Cup, forget it. That's a write-off. That's the one, obviously, little trade-off he has to make, which he's done anyway. The kids will be coming out and playing in that particular game. But I think Liverpool can actually use this month to their advantage. I really do.
OK, so stop talking about how it's a drain on resources.
No, they got the squad. They're going to take two teams with them over there. I really do. And I think it's great just in terms of getting them away. Get them away from Liverpool, the tension around the city, the expectancy, the pressure building. Best thing to do, take them away from it. Take them away for a week, a bit of sun, a bit of togetherness, a bit of downtime. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to the theory at all that there is that there's still this lingering worry around them because of the narrow way they are winning games? But again, it's how you spin it. It is how you spin. That's exactly it. Because I think that there's such an easy way to positively spin that as well, and it's almost getting to the stage now where you're watching Liverpool clinging onto a 1-goal lead and thinking to yourself, there's no clinging going on here whatsoever.
But this is the thing, there's more to come from this Liverpool team. If they can tap into that in the second half of the season, forget about it. We won't be talking about City catching Liverpool, we'll be talking about how much distance Liverpool are going to put between themselves.
I think we're already at that point.
Manchester City. Yeah, absolutely. This is what I'm saying. They're playing within themselves, and individuals not quite at their best. But it doesn't matter. They don't have to be at their best. There must be that sense in the dressing room, every time they step onto the pitch. Yeah, you look to perform at your maximum levels, don't get me wrong, but that certain knowledge is, let's just get the job done. We know how to get the job done. We don't have to be our very best. And sometimes in a game, we've all been there, you get a sense of it early in the game. It's not quite happening, 20 minutes, half an hour in. You get a sense of, it's going to be this type of game. We're not really popping the ball as we should. We haven't got that rhythm to our play. Do you know what? You almost accept it. Say, right, it's going to be this type of game. We're going to plough through. We're just going to get it done. That's what Liverpool have been doing. And that must destroy Manchester City, looking at Liverpool thinking, that's another 6 out of 10 performance. We were talking about Liverpool nowhere near their best. Yeah. 3 points. Yeah. Relentless.
It's interesting in the context of tonight's game, the Merseyside derby, because I really feel that it's probably almost 12 months to the day since that infamous Merseyside derby goal last season when Jordan Pickford fumbles and Divock Origi puts the ball into the back of the net. It's almost like since that point, Liverpool have gone to a level of, I don't want to say invincibility because they ended up losing to Manchester City a couple of weeks later, which ended up winning the league for City. But there's something different about them. There's a different sort of grit. And they've been on an incredible run since then, which kind of obviously spilled into this year.
I think so. I just think the belief has grown off the back of that Champions League victory. I think that, don't underestimate in terms of the kind of confidence, you know what I mean, that shot through their veins off the back of that, in terms of the realisation how good we actually are. Yeah. We're actually good enough. We should be winning this league title. And also the frustration, couple that in with the frustration, almost the anger, the disappointment at missing out last season. Yeah, Manchester City put a great run together, but they leaked a 10-point lead. The draws at Old Trafford and Everton in particular at Goodison last year, that would have really have rankled. So that's driving them as well. That's what's underneath, absolutely driving them. So I can't see any let up. I really can't.
All right, it's 8:30 a.m. on OTB AM this morning. That means only one thing.
It's spinning! Jonathan Sexton!
Voting is live for our next round of 16 clash in our search for Ireland's most memorable sporting moment of the decade. Last night, the O'Donovan brothers joined Shane Long in the quarterfinals. Do we know, are they on the same side of the bracket? Is that now a quarterfinal?
Yes, everything we've done so far, we haven't even moved on to the other side of the bracket.
Right, so they all match?
Yeah.
This is all one side of the draw? All
on one side of the draw. So what are we? We're into day 3 of it. So today's winner will play tomorrow's winner. Monday will play Tuesday. So
today it is Shane Lowry versus Ireland beating the All Blacks for the very first time in their history in Chicago. So it's Shane Lowry's open win versus Ireland beating New Zealand in Chicago. What are you doing? Are you shaking your hands?
You bounced this off me last week, didn't you? You actually totally threw me. Like, memory wouldn't be great and stuff. But Shane Lowry, with that third round in the British
Saturday,
Open, for God's sake. I mean, that was absolutely spellbinding.
Yeah.
That was the final day. That felt like they should have been, shouldn't they? They should have flipped those 2 rounds around that final day in the tour. So that was it, wasn't it? The type of golf that he played, the sun was out, wasn't it?
There's a putt on the first green in the final pairing the next day that gets missed. That would have put a little bit of pressure on Lowry. That gets missed. He gets his for bogey, which was a tricky one, and that was it. Once that was done, it was like, you've only dropped 1 shot there. It could have been a big swing. It could have been a 3-shot swing, and that would have been we're back on here. Anything's
that was
possible.
over. Yeah, that was over in the last round. The weather conditions that were coming in, we all knew the type of weather that was coming, the type of golf that he can play. In those cases, it was all over for me after the tour. Might as well have given him the trophy there walking off the green.
I think after the first hole, you're right. But there was definitely, because it had happened to him before when he should have won the US Open, when he had a big lead, and there'd just been like, ooh. So there was just that just that little question, and once he nailed that putt for bogey on the first, it's like you're celebrating the bogey going, that's it. I agree with you, though. The Saturday performance was one of the greatest Irish performances on a world stage ever. That Saturday where you crushed the field, and it's like...
Yeah, the type of... Yeah, if that had been like the Sunday, you could say, the Americans can't play in that type of way, they're not used. He was brought up on these courses and that he has the advantage over... But he didn't have the advantage over the rest of the field on the Saturday. I wouldn't say ideal, it was blown a little bit, maybe sun was out, but there was no excuses there. It was 11 playing field with some of the best ball strikers and players in the world, and he was amazing. Just how he carried himself, his demeanour and the whole day, and...
He was like really enjoying the Saturday as well. Yeah. Like the penultimate round, kind of big smile on his face coming down the 17th fairway, I think it was. And it's like, God, this almost looks like a victory lap. And there's still like 19 holes left to play when he was walking down the 17th.
So that couple of weeks, like the Carroll's Irish Open just prior to that, Lahinch was amazing. The last couple of years, that bounce from the Irish, when did that change? That bounce straight from the Irish Open. Have they narrowed that window?
Yeah.
The Scottish Open's come into it as well the last couple of years.
So they moved back. It's going to be in May next year. The Irish Open's going to be in May next year.
That run of golf the last couple of years, Irish Open, Scottish and British Open, is just can't stay away from it. Amazing.
Pretty good.
And the last 2 Carroll's Irish Opens for me hands down, up in Donegal and Lahinch. Seriously, or this tourist board here, but absolutely phenomenal.
Showing your age there, Kenny. It was in the 80s. It was last called after a cigarette company. They banned cigarette advertising. Did you know that?
What's that?
What did you call the tournament?
The Carol's Irish. Oh no, yeah. That's the old Tracy days, isn't it? John Tracy days.
Toasty. No, not anymore.
Des Smith.
I'm sure you can pick up some Carl cigarettes at Dubai duty free on your way to the airport.
Yeah. God, 200 pack for your ma, for your granny.
You were never a smoker, were you?
Oh God, no. No.
Your body's a temple. He had a 63 that day, and the pictures, I'm just looking at some of them here. They're great, and it's mostly him with his hand in the air celebrating after like sinking into their raking putt. It was pretty good.
Phenomenal. And then the aftermath, the boar's head, Clara, the grandmother, everything that came with that week was just special. It was one of the most warmly received Irish sporting successes ever.
Now, we've never beaten the All Blacks. They had won 17 games in a row, which was a record-breaking achievement. They were going to set the all-time record of 18 successive victories. It was still a team that was the World Cup champions. They were still riding that wave where they annihilated everybody with their best World Cup final performance, right? It was like an absolute 35-17, I think, and the Australians were lucky to get 17. It was a last-minute try to put a bit of respectability on the scoreline. And we hammered them. Like, in a scenario where we were leading the game, big lead, uh-oh, here they come, uh-oh, Sexton's gone off, uh-oh, our pool is depleted here, uh-oh, we've seen this movie before, they're about to score and they're about to win. And then we score 2 late tries. One with a brilliant bit of bravery and breakaway. And for the first time in our history, ever, as a rugby nation, we beat this team.
And the reason why I bring up the couple of days after Shane Lowry is almost to lend some credence to the argument for the All Blacks, because I think context for all these moments is so important. And I think the Chicago element just adds to the mystique of it. Being there for the parade for the Chicago Cubs, you guys were there, I wasn't there. Being there, I would imagine, for the Chicago Cubs parade is pretty special. You mentioned the Donald Trump element. The autumn of 2016 was an interesting time to be in the United States of America. And then, of course, you had the Anthony Foley aspect of it as well, the figure of 8 in the face of the haka. It's an iconic sporting moment. It really, really is. It's very hard to make a case for it being more special than Shane Lowry or more memorable than Shane Lowry, but God, on its own merits as a standalone moment, I think everything about this is just spectacular. Like, people were talking about other rugby moments, like the All Blacks in Dublin perhaps being more special. I don't think so. I think that even from being on a different continent watching it just felt.
Do you think that enhanced it because it was in Chicago? So I would have thought it would have been the opposite. Did it not get the amount of coverage or that it should have done because it was so far away over in Chicago? Do you not think it was the opposite in terms of the noise around the game? I know it was a great victory, but probably felt different for you. You're obviously there, but I'm saying for me, obviously, I didn't watch the game live, but it kind of heard the result. But you're talking about the second game in Dublin, we were all over it. You know, I was in Dublin, the Aviva, whoosh, everybody was on it. You know what I mean? It's in Dublin, like, as opposed to just the distance element to it in a funny way. For me, it just seemed a little bit more detached.
I don't think you need that. I think we're also speaking about Shane Lowry achieving something in a different country as well. Granted, it's much closer to home, and there was a very...
Whoa. We're not. We're talking about Shane Lowry.
Ireland.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good point.
Not that far away.
Very good point.
Walk that back there quickly.
That's a complete brain fart.
Yes, it is. Yes.
No, but I think
the same country.
The Chicago thing, I think the fact that if you're in there, you got a flavour of it. You're talking about the other things around the game, absolutely. But for someone who was outside of it back in, I can't remember where it was in Dublin or in the UK, it just seemed a little bit...
When you were watching it. Yeah.
It just seemed a little bit more detached, the experience.
Actually, what am I talking like that? Just to clarify, of course, that was the reason why Shane Lowry was made more special, because it was an Irishman winning the British Open in Ireland.
Well said, Eoin. Well said. Good comeback.
Classic comeback.
I can't believe I've got.
What's that dumpy out of context? I did say that, but I was wrong. Oh, you were wrong, were you? Yeah, I was wrong.
I did say that, and I was wrong. I'll say that. Honestly,
you did? You were wrong, were you?
I think the distance element of it. Well, it's not the distance of it. It's the fact that it was in Chicago. It's such a kind of novel place for a massive test match to have occurred. And
Soldier Field's a cool stadium.
Wind blown.
Yeah.
Windy city.
Yeah, it's called windy because the politicians jab so much, not because it's actually...
Yeah.
But I mean, it is also quite windy because of the lake. But they had a good team. They had a really good team.
Well, can you talk about that? Yeah, the calendar year that the All Blacks have put in, not many people would have expected them to have got humble in such a fashion. Now, the flip side of that is people talk about the All Blacks in those autumn tests and say, well, where was their headspace at? But I think on that particular year, trying to do... It was going for a perfect year, wasn't it? So, like, one more win and it would have been the perfect calendar year. So I think that there was a lot of incentive for them as well. Like, I don't know, maybe...
Do you think the comparison, though, in terms of individual achievement, like Shane Lowry's obviously, and obviously the team narrative in terms of the Irish rugby team, in terms of a comparison, I mean, you could talk them both up and rightly so, but in terms of which was greater than the other, for me, is very difficult, just by virtue of the fact that the team collective and the kind of the individual sport element to it, it's almost impossible.
That's why it's difficult, Kenny. It's nothing good in life ever came easy. Right, back to last night. Some people in the Off the Ball studio, some people thought that Pat Hickey's arrest deserved a little bit more love.
You haven't given your opinion, though. You see, much like Dan McDonald last night, much like Anne-Marie once again, ready to give out about all this, but not willing to fully commit. Go on, Anne-Marie. Favourite moment of the last decade?
Just from the list.
I worry now that, Anne-Marie, you're going to go and say that you're so young you can't really remember some of the things that happened at the start of the decade.
No, Katie, obviously.
Okay.
It's hard to look past Katie.
But I'd have Brady up there, up high.
So I'm not saying it shouldn't be in the top 16.
You feel at the time.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be in the top 16. Oh, look, in terms of how you feel, obviously it was magic. But in terms, it's how you feel versus achievement.
It's not the greatest achievements upon reflection.
So sorry, it's not greatest achievement. It's how it made me feel. Is that the criteria?
In the moment.
To the nation.
How it made me feel.
Exactly.
Right.
Did it make you feel warm inside? Did Pat Hickey's arse make you feel warm inside?
No.
Between the two tonight, how are you going to side?
Sorry, what are we talking about?
Right, Tom Malone is here. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, good. I watched that so many times. Yeah, we'll just start with football. Manchester City have reduced Liverpool's lead at the top of the Premier League to just 8 points. Gabby Jesus scored twice in a 4-1 win over Burnley at Turf Moor last night. Rodri and Riyad Mahrez got the other two. And Republic of Ireland international Robbie Brady came off the bench to score a consolation goal. Pep Guardiola, though, made a jokey swipe after the match, saying the title race is over.
But the title is over. Wow, what I read, nobody give us a chance, so it's done. It's not about I believe it, I don't believe it. So but the way we played lately, except 20 minutes against Chelsea, the rest of the games that we are playing lately is in good level.
Famous Guardiola sense of humour there. Crystal Palace are fifth in the table. Meanwhile, they had Bournemouth's measure with a 1-0 win over them. Jeffrey Schlupp with the goal. First Merseyside derby of the season coming up later. As table toppers Liverpool host Everton at Anfield, kicks off at 8:15, and Reds manager Jurgen Klopp says it won't be a walkover against the struggling Toffees.
Go through the Everton squad and I would say, well, that's a really good squad, and nobody denies that, not Marco, nobody. It's just why it's not clicking 100% so far, I don't know really. A lot of pressure, obviously. Everton is a very ambitious club, rightly so.
Jose Mourinho, meanwhile, makes his return to Manchester United tonight. The Spurs boss brings his new side to face the Red Devils at 7:30 at Old Trafford. And Mourinho has no concerns about returning to Old Trafford.
I like to play. I like to play big matches. I like to play against the best teams. And that is the most important thing. Going back to Old Trafford is to go back to a place where I was happy. I can say that I was happy. I have a great relation with the Manchester United supporters. I went back as a pundit, which is a different perspective.
Yeah, 50 text messages he got from Manchester United staff, he said, wasn't it?
Is that a bit weird?
It's really weird.
That he's still that he's held up with such adoration at Manchester United.
In his opinion, I think it's...
Yeah, I'm not quite buying that.
He's liked at Manchester United.
That he says he's liked.
Well, Andy Mitten was saying it earlier on that he's going to get a good reception at Manchester United tonight.
Yeah,
respectful. Maybe
respectful.
I wouldn't go any further than that.
Well, he's going to get received warmly at Manchester United tonight.
Respectful. That's different. That's a notch above warmly is a notch above respectful in my book.
Respectful. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. At a football stadium, you would get your mother would get slagged for nothing for like fouling somebody accidentally. This is a football stadium we're talking about. This is like respect being shown to somebody.
He won a trophy.
Two trophies. Like this is the thing.
One that mattered, right? What was the second one?
League Cup and the Europa League.
Or in the League Cup.
So you're saying he deserves the.
He deserves it. Like a round of applause. Jose Mourinho, blah, blah, blah. And then the game starts and like, screw you, sit down. Like, it'll be fine, but it's not going to be, I mean...
I don't like
it's not warm.
I don't like the fact he's come out, I received, it's kind of like, really need to come out and say it as if, like,
He does need to, is the thing.
Yeah.
He needs to.
Yeah, he's still smart and basically for his time. He said he was happy at Manchester United. Really? Well, he done a good job in hiding it because he came across the most miserable person for the majority of the time that he was there. And I think he knows it. And since then, I think some of the interviews he's done started this season he's come as close to admitting to that as he can do in terms of, look, I made some mistakes and hopefully now I've learned from them. He's the kind of figure we're seeing now is just like, it's chalk and cheese from what we experienced for the last 3.5 years. Clearly there's been a period there of introspection or whatever you want to call it. And he's come out the other side, and for me, for the better, because I'm quite buying into what I'm seeing at the moment. That kind of charismatic kind of figure is back, and that was always one of his biggest attributes.
Yeah. Let's move on to Leicester City, and then, of course, second in the table. They, look to go back second in the table. They host Watford at the King Power Stadium, while Aston Villa take on Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Wolves welcome West Brom to Molineux in West Midlands Derby. It's Southampton against Norwich. While in the Scottish Premiership, of course, the top two just separated on goal difference. Celtic host Hamilton at Parkhead, and it's Rangers away to Aberdeen. Meanwhile, the FAI are reported to be set to extend their loan repayments on the Aviva Stadium beyond 2030, over a decade beyond the date promised by former CEO John Delaney. According to the Irish Daily Star today, the association has weekly repayments of €100,000 on the stadium debt alone. It's believed the restoration of government funding is not on the cards at the present time. An interim executive lead, Paul Cook, is set to brief the public on the state of the association's accounts tomorrow. Former rugby player Israel Follett, meanwhile, has settled his unfair dismissal case with Rugby Australia. The devout Christian was sacked earlier this year over social media posts saying hell awaits people. He sued for more than £7 million and has received an undisclosed settlement and an apology from the sports governing body. While in snooker, Ronnie O'Sullivan went through to the last 16 with a 6-2 win over Napan Sengham in the UK Championship at the Barbican in York last night. While at 1 o'clock today, Antrim's Mark Allen takes on England's Kurt Mafflin in the last 16 at York, while later on John Higgins faces Stuart Bingham, and the evening session, China's Li Hang is up against fellow countryman Liang Wenbo.
All right, good stuff, Tom. Thanks very much for that. Some more stuff to play you here. We've been out and about asking people for their sense of whether or not Chicago or Shane Lowry should actually win. Here's some of the reaction to Ireland's historic win over the All Blacks in Chicago. Have a look.
Off the ball Irish sporting moment of the 2010s. We've had some seriously good clashes, and this one's one of the top. Shane Lowry's open victory in 2019 versus Ireland's victory over New Zealand in Chicago. Which was the better moment? We asked Dublin.
Ireland beat New Zealand. Chicago. Rugby's much more popular than Shane Lowry is.
Than New Zealand. Probably rugby, yeah?
Shane Lowry, 100%. I wouldn't be a big rugby fan now. I think it's overhyped.
Overhyped? Yeah, overhyped. Why is it overhyped?
Sure, beating New Zealand in the friendly.
Oh, no!
I have to say, Ireland versus New Zealand, just that rugby's more popular in Ireland, so more people are watching.
Shane Lowry, without a doubt. Shane Lowry is, everyone's gunning for the open. It was on home soil. It was just a kind of a great occasion in the first place.
Yeah, the game is good. Yeah, it was man the match. Yeah, good goal, wasn't it?
In terms of fanfare and everyone getting behind it, I'd say New Zealand.
I'm a rugby man, so I'd say Ireland beating New Zealand.
Beating the All Blacks was a huge. I mean, not to
better than Lowry.
Yeah, I'd lean towards Lowry, in that occasion.
It's unexpected.
I think if Ireland could beat the All Blacks in a competition, that would be bigger.
Shane Lowry, I think it's a more difficult thing to do. Individual in a sport with millions rather than a one-off rugby game against sort of one other team.
Lowry, it was a good game for them, but it was a Mickey Mouse game, where New Zealand had a half team out,
Mickey Mouse?
Shane Lowry winning the Open.
Shane Lowry winning the Open.
Shane Lowry winning the Open.
Yeah, probably the second one. Ireland beating New Zealand?
Yeah.
You say the second one as if you're not really...
I like cricket as much as the next guy, but...
So straight away, two different.
Ireland would beat New Zealand. You can't beat the All Blacks.
So we're beating twice.
Rugby.
And you?
probably the rugby, yeah.
So Shane Lowry wins the Open in 2019, but it's not enough for the Irish people. Ireland beating New Zealand in Chicago is seen as the better moment. Who'd have thought it?
Well, we'll see. The poll is now open. It's live. I want to just remind you a little bit of some of the aftermath of it. For your consideration, here are the sounds of Chicago first. Yeah, here's their reaction to Ireland's historic win over the All Blacks in Chicago.
I just thought that was the best way to start the programme this morning. Chicago is all of our kinds of town.
And US Vice President Joe Biden is the latest to pass on his congratulations to the Irish rugby team. The boys in green beat the All Blacks overnight in Chicago.
Ended a drought of 111 years for Ireland to beat New Zealand. We had to travel to do it, but by God, they put on one hell of a show.
New Zealand's side were on an 18-match winning streak heading into last night's game.
It was a fantastic 40-29 win.
Yeah. Oh, how we all believed anything was possible in the aftermath of that. What about the sounds of Shane Lowry's Open win? Have a listen.
Huge crowds here, and they are cheering for Shane Lowry. But
going to try to utilize the slope from the right. She just left it a hole. Wow. Hole on the left side to me.
How about this guy? Shane Lowry has played the par fours this week in 9 under par. That is
close, really. Little right. Okay.
And here he comes.
They pile in behind Lowry here. Lowry comes underneath and emerges.
And Ireland's Shane Lowry is an Open champion at Royal Portrush.
Yeah, so the 149th Open, a clear, easy victory in the end for Shane Lowry, his first major, a big moment.
Yeah, it was a fantastic year, obviously, as well. Was it Dubai at the start of the year, Abu Dhabi at the start of the year? That was, it was the National, wasn't it, in Abu Dhabi, where he won in January or February, and you kind of knew then at that point that Shane Lowry was back, and this was going to be a fairly successful year for him, and like it's obviously a big step between that and actually going on to win a major, and then just having that comprehensive lead going down the home stretch, actually having that ability to soak it in from his perspective, I'd imagine, was just hugely pleasurable. It was
the early votes, the first 150 votes, we've been open 15 minutes. What do you think?
It's not going to be a hammering, I reckon, but I just really can't see the public voting for Chicago en masse over Shane Lowry, and I think Shane Lowry fully deserves to win this.
What's the score? Give me a score.
60-40.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say it's hard to get beyond like rugby supporters. Won't be too many rugby supporters going to be voting for Shane Lowry, is there? You get a sense of that, don't you?
Well, I think
if you love your rugby,
it was a good point made. If we'd beaten them in a competition, like as in if we'd.
Yeah, but then we saw the other extreme, and Mickey Mouse. I mean, I've never seen a friendly game or involved in a friendly rugby union game. It just doesn't exist. Like, but I think you're right in terms of the pressure of a World Cup. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's brave enough to admit they voted for a glorified friendly? I am. # Chicago, says Tommy Rooney.
And Tommy was there.
Tommy was there. We all had the time of our lives. It's 70-30 at the moment in favour of Shane Lowry. Which feels about right.
Yeah, it's about right. Shane Lowry could go all the way and win this. As I said, I think it was definitely the most warmly received Irish sporting moment of the entire decade.
There's also recency bias because it just happened this summer. It was like, yeah, of course I'm voting for that.
But he is our most likeable sports person.
At the moment, definitely, yeah. And I think the rugby team didn't do themselves any favour with the last tournament.
Well, that recency bias also comes into play.
Yeah, so they get massive super minus bonus points and he gets plus.
Oh, that shouldn't come into it.
That's how human life works.
Oh, no. I understand. Yeah, that might be in people's mind at the moment, but that shouldn't be the case, should it? The level we were playing at, I mean, it'd be
so good.
The level we were playing at a couple of years ago in the rugby, and I'm no rugby, so I don't, very little, but the level we were playing at for a period of time under Smith there, around the time we beat it, we were there was nobody better than us. We're beating everybody. We just couldn't lose.
We're super aggressive, super
that
confident.
Level of performance.
No mistakes.
Talking about Liverpool last season, last 6 months of the season. This season, as good as they are, significant drop off. It's not unexpected. It'd be more of a surprise if they didn't. There wasn't that little drop off.
Didn't we lose our next 2 test matches after that? after Chicago. We lost to New Zealand in Dublin, then we lost to Scotland in the opening of the...
They should have not won that game. They should have had 2 men sent off because they concussed players with flying, swinging tackles. They should have been down to 13 men. We would have won that game. Sean O'Brien's over the try line and drops the ball.
We go to Edinburgh and get beaten then at the start of the next season.
But the bus was late, Owen. You can't. I mean,
the
what?
bus was late. The bus was very, very late, and they scored an early try off the front of the line at them. They was I think that we were back in. I think we were brought back into line because we didn't win the Grand Slam in 2017. Now I know we ended 2017 Six Nations very strongly. Like that was when we beat England when they were going for the Slam.
When was when England came to the Viva and turned us over? Was that the?
That's this year.
No, that was this year.
No, I think we beat England in 2017.
Yeah.
When they're
we beat England back to back, 17
and 18
home and 18 over there.
But that was a worry for me. When England came to the Viva, they played well that day, didn't they?
That was the end. Writing was on the wall at that point.
Felt as if,
something's gone wrong here. Oisin Langan says, I love the win against the All Blacks, but Shane Lowry's open win tops it. I think that's kind of where we are here. Which is your favourite child territory? Brendan Meehan says, Ireland have been close and denied and also comprehensively beaten by the All Blacks for years. Adrian McGrath says, Chicago was a challenge match against a demotivated team. New Zealand proves reality a week later. And then it has to be Ireland beating the All Blacks, says Brendan. Ireland beating the All Blacks was better than Dana winning the Eurovision.
That is hyperbole, the highest order.
Even Johnny Logan?
Well, Johnny's second win is like iconic.
Is Johnny's second win the best Eurovision win of all time?
Well, because it means the first one wasn't a flash in the pan.
That's true.
You know,
what was the title of the second one? What's another year? Was that the first one?
Hold Me Now was first and then...
No,
was the other.
Was it? Was the other way around?
Yeah, Hold Me Now was 93 or 94.
Check your collection when you go home, Jay. It's still there.
Riverdance 95, isn't it?
Yes.
And who wins Riverdance here? Oh, I Am the Light and the Dream.
What's her name?
One, I don't know.
I can't remember. She represented Ireland twice. She represented us a couple of years ago, didn't she?
Did she?
Didn't she come back?
I think she wrote the song. I'm not sure she performed it.
She did perform it as well. I don't know.
You should probably know the name.
Eurovision's dead. The Eurovision's dead. Has been for a long time.
Only to us. The rest of the continent woke up to it. We were the hipsters.
They can have it.
They can have it. They colonised it, and we're no good. I think
it's like VAR. It's like they've introduced VAR to the Eurovision Song Contest the last 10 years, destroyed it.
Sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night for only 2 reasons. One of them is that Dublin will eventually catch Kerry in the All Ireland Stakes, and second is
you've run out of hair gel. You run out of hair gel in the morning when you wake up before you
ruined my punchline. But yours is better. Yours is better.
What was your punchline?
No, I was just saying that sometimes I just realise it's ruined now. That Sweden are going to catch Ireland in the Eurovision, but let's hope it never happens, and let's hope the hair gel thing never happens either, because that really would be a dark day. One day they'll come out, but I won't be able to use it anymore.
Right. If you want to get in touch with us this morning, you can use the hashtag OTBAM. It's 8:57. Now we're here with you until about 9:30 this morning. Going to hear from Andy Lee in just a couple of minutes' time. He's obviously coaching at the moment a number of different fighters. He's in California, is that where he is?
Yeah.
So you had to get up bright and early this morning to talk to him. What's the fight this week?
Jason Quigley is in the ring for the first time since his defeat earlier in the year, and obviously working with Andy at this point. It's an interesting chat, as you said, that we recorded before going on air. One of my favourite parts about Andy Lee's philosophy when it comes to boxers in the United States is that you can't just go over there and win. You've got to win in style. You've got to knock out your opponents, and that's something we touch on here. So he's fighting tomorrow night in California.
All right, we're going to get to that in just a minute, but last bit on Chicago versus Shane Lowry. Obviously, we had the golf dorks, Joe and Nathan, in studio together last night. It was like Golf Weekly taking over the radio show. Obviously, they bring you Golf Weekly every week of the year, 30 weeks of the 50 weeks, whatever it is. Surely, obviously, they were making the case for Shane Lowry, right? Weren't they? Obviously, right? Yeah.
New Zealand, Chicago. I must say, I think actually, and I was in Chicago for this, I think, and I watched the Dublin New Zealand win at home on my couch. I still actually think it might be the Dublin win.
Why?
Well, I just can't shake the feel that New Zealand, both literally in terms of the players they were missing, and also spiritually, emotionally, motivationally, every which way you want to talk about it, were a good bit away from their best.
They were going for a world record winning streak.
I know, and I accept that. It's hard to argue with that, but I just felt there was such a brilliant build-up to the Dublin match where New Zealand, hang on, these have actually beaten us now. And this is like, so this is like world number one against world number two. This was the sign-off of the year. And that most certainly was a game they really, really were massively motivated to win. And usually when you've just beaten them, you definitely don't think you're going to do it a second time in a row. So in terms of like the achievement and the moment and the atmosphere in the Aviva, that kind of jumps out for me. Because, you know, it's a weird thing, actually, having been in Chicago. The atmosphere was really weird. There were just a bunch of Yanks there who didn't have a clue what was going on.
Who were just,
I swear to God,
there for the experience.
The row in front of me, there was a woman talking to the guy behind her, and the two of them did not pay a blind bit of heed to what was going on. I mean, there'd be...
Was that JP?
JP was in the corporate section.
Was he on Tinder in the middle of the match? Possibly.
He was busy phone. So that was a little bit off-putting.
Right.
And so they would, you know, a massive roar would go up when Ireland had maybe we kind of won a penalty in a scrum, and they would turn around and see a heap of bodies on the ground and be like, yeah. So it was kind of hard as Ireland was scoring tries not to be still eavesdropping on their conversation. And that's a very specific complaint. But it was a weird atmosphere in the stadium versus this unbelievable atmosphere which, you know, ripped through the TV in Dublin. The thing that Chicago has going for it, obviously, is it was the first time, and you have to, that counts for something for sure.
Well, there were also several parts to that day.
Yeah.
So there was the pre-match.
Yeah.
And Anthony Foley had just died, and the players gathering in the number 8 was one of the more touching moments of Irish sport of all time.
Yes.
It was just so appropriate at that time. There was the way Ireland played, that they just absolutely blitzed the All Blacks in the first half. But then the All Blacks come back, and it being Irish rugby and Irish sport, we know what happens next. They just go and win. But they didn't. Actually, for once, Ireland grounded out and finished the game brilliantly.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio. Off the ball.
You know, I'm not proud of this. There was times where I was texting 30 or 40 girls at one time. I had this old Nokia 6210, and I genuinely, I'm not joking, there was that many numbers in that phone, because I was in a period of my life where I was just lost, and I was just constantly chasing a high. And, you know, no disrespect to all the lovely girls I met in my life and things, it was like I was just chasing this high.
Off the ball. Weeknights from 7 and weekends from 1. This is OTB Sports Radio.
From music to rock out to, chill out to, and dance to. From sweater weather to workout playlists. Whatever mood you're in, Go Loud has music to match. Download the Go Loud app now or add us on your smart speaker. Go Loud. Podcasts, radio, and music to your ears. Go Loud!
OTB AM.
On YouTube, Stephen Egan says, Irish rugby players equals bottlers. No pressure in a friendly. Lowry, hands down. All aboard the Lowry bandwagon, says somebody else. There's a lot of Lowry love coming in. Lowry has an almost perfect performance in one of the biggest stages in world golf, and he did it on Irish soil. We were looking for an Irishman to step up, and he did. Lowry is a legend. And, yeah.
It's a good argument, that.
The Irish, yeah, that was it. I think we can get behind that. I think that's probably what's going to happen.
There's no losers here, Jerry. There's no losers in this competition.
Look, Kenny, there's only...
only winners.
Only winners. There is always a loser, it turns out. Thanks very much for popping into us today. Sorry, go on.
Will Ireland beating Chicago, losing in this round of 16 match, taint the achievement of Chicago? Is the question we need to be asking.
Yes, I think it takes the glass off it. Yeah, definitely takes the glass off it. Which game are you looking forward to most tonight? Man United against Spurs, the Merseyside derby. Chelsea versus Villa, obviously, which we didn't spend the full hour on that we should have done. But
yeah, a lot of good things happening down in Chelsea. Despite the kind of performance the weekend, they're only heading in one direction. They're on the up, Chelsea, absolutely. But yeah, the United Tottenham game, I'm really interested in. I think it'll be a really good game of football, really open game.
Which one are you doing studio for?
Tottenham Man United.
There you go. Okay, come on, thanks very much for joining us today. Always good to have you with us. We're going to be crossing over to Andy Lee in California in just a few moments' time. First, here's Sean Gannon of Eoin Carlo speaking to John Duggan ahead of their AIB Club Championship Leinster football final against Ballybode St Edmunds this weekend.
Does it dominate Carlow Town, the club?
See, there's 5 clubs. This is a dangerous question now. There's 5 clubs in Carlow. I suppose Drake Cullen now will be right beside Carlow Town, but they play the football in Laois. And we've O'Hanrahan, Zaska, and Pal wouldn't be too far outside as well, and then Eoin. So I suppose it's dominating the last 3 years, but before that, Pal had won 2 in a row, and we had a real barren spell where O'Hanrahan's won 3 in a row. They were the last team to win 3 in a row, and they also won a Leinster in 2000, I believe it was. So everyone has had their kind of turn, I suppose. So
does it get tribal at all?
It can. There'd be very strong rivalries, I suppose, between the clubs, and healthier rivalries nowadays. I suppose it wasn't always. It was a little bit more tense, but no, it's good rivalry, and like we all have to go back in and play with each other in the county and all the rest. So it kind of goes on for this time of the year, but then you'll move on and get over until next year again.
And playing with the county and playing with Turlock and Stephen in recent times, Stephen Poacher, and beating Kildare in the championship last year. Does all those experiences, do they help you when you're going back to the club and when you maybe are talking to younger lads about, look, keeping your composure in a big game or the things you need to do to compete? Yeah,
look, I suppose, first of all, winning those games on the big scene makes you relevant to the younger people. And so that certainly helps. Like your opinion holds a little bit more weight after that. And we've had, I suppose, 3 really good years with Carlow. Now, didn't finish well last year, but suspensions and everything and injuries that we picked up for the championship, we weren't going in even close to full strength. So we finished on a bit of a low, and it's sad to see Stephen go obviously now this year as well, because himself and Turlough, and maybe Turlough especially, has instilled a belief in Carlow people that probably wasn't, if I'm honest, wasn't there beforehand. So we were able to bring that back even towards to Eoin. So the county players came back, it brought back to their club. And yeah, that experience certainly helps to speak.
Amazing what a lift does, like beating Kildare, the lift it brings to a county, and not just for the day, but just then for, like, it's not just Willie Mullins and Sean O'Brien down there. This actually has a positive impact going forward. Yeah, it has. Like
I spoke about it earlier, it was seeing the Carlow jerseys. The Carlow jerseys were everywhere, and before that, it was other counties were genuine.
And it's the best coloured jersey in the whole country.
I know,
anyway.
And you can't miss it. And that's why I know they're there. You can't miss them. But like that's just brilliant, and it's hopefully inspiring another generation to come up. And when our time is gone, that it gives us something to go and watch, and you never know where they can go.
And St Mullins in the hurling final.
Yeah, St Mullins are, I suppose, an extraordinary club. I don't know if you know it personally, but it's quite a small area. There's 3 tiny schools in it, and like, I mean, when I say small, like 1 classroom, 2 classrooms kind of thing. So to do what they're doing is outrageous. At times they enter they're great in terms of they enter under 17, 15, 13 championships, but they have to supplement all the teams with younger guys. And I suppose that's standing to them, and it certainly is. Like James Doyle and Marty Cavan are hitting the headlines now, but there's so many fantastic hurlers coming out with St Mullins now and have done over the last number of years, and are helping the county team. So we wish them the very best of luck on Sunday too.
Games management is what you're doing in Carlow. What does that involve?
Yeah, so I suppose at the moment just kind of coordinating all the coaching and game side of things that go on within Carlow GAA through schools and primary schools, secondary schools, and squads, clubs, everything really, you know. So it entails a lot. You never kind of do the same thing 2 days in a row, which is brilliant. Now your whole life is engrossed in GAA, which can be a challenge at times, but look, it's something that I love doing, so I'm very happy to continue doing it.
On your Twitter page, it says you're a Swindon Town fan. What's that all about?
Yeah, I'm a huge man to visit the county grounds there in Swindon. Flying high in League 2 now, so we're coming up there. I won't be long till we're ahead of Man United and these lads.
Very good. I always kind of think with club sides, John, that you have your characters and you have your people that are really part of the journey. They might not play, but they might volunteer. You saw, like, was it Paddy the Cock for Varsity and all this kind of stuff on the back pages last weekend. Do you have many characters there in Eoin?
We've a couple, all right. I suppose we've Tommy Noctor, who's a fellow who's been around for years and years, and he looks after everything got to do with from closing up the dressing rooms at night to open up the club in the morning. There's nothing that he doesn't lay his hand to. We also have Charles Ellis, who'll be a massive Man United fan now. He'd be a huge Man United fan, and he'd be well renowned throughout the county and further afield, I suppose. So yeah, we've plenty of these guys, and I suppose continuing the winning sequence that we're on now, you get to see more and more of these guys, and they kind of light up the room, you know. So it's been brilliant. So Charles obviously is going through a hard time in Man United at the moment, but look, his time will come again.
They've won enough. Ballybowden, look, they won the All-Ireland there a couple of years ago, 2016. They're a very professional outfit. I'd say you've got a lot of stuff to do, homework-wise, video-wise, identifying strengths, weaknesses, how you can win the game. How do you think you can do it?
Yeah, well, we haven't sat down and looked at him yet. We're only after getting over Portlaoise, I suppose, but that'll come tonight, I suppose, on Thursday night. We tend to look at them, and then next week we'll look at ourselves and see how we can improve. Obviously, we know, like, they've been on the telly, but it was a few years ago. I can't really remember any of the games. I saw only clips of their last game, so I mean, I know they're powerful. They love running through the middle, and they're very big and going to be hard to stop. But we pride our game on that kind of thing as well. So it'll be an interesting battle. You know, we'll have a few clashes here and there, and we'll see who comes out on top. Look, obviously they're a massive, massive club, and have the history of winning in All Ireland, which is great. But like I said, we played them earlier on in the year, and we had an interesting tussle. So we know what they're about. They know what we're about. So it'll be just. We'll see if we can find a weakness. I don't know, unless are you holding any back from me there? Did Ryan tell you anything? But look, we'll see. Tommy Toomey is doing a lot of work for us on the video analysis, so look, he'll have a look at the game and hopefully relay a couple of points to us.
Okay, let's go to California this morning. Andy Lee is standing by. Andy, how are things?
All good, Eoin. How are you?
Very well. Your boy Jason Quigley.
How's the weather in Dublin?
It's amazing. We're not jealous whatsoever of your situation over there. We're right
there. A bit of rain here. We've had the last couple of days.
Whereabouts are you in California? You're just outside Los Angeles, is it?
Yeah, Newport Beach.
Okay.
Orange County, so staying in a nice enough little hotel, about 10-minute drive from the venue. So, yeah, Jason's ready now. We just finished our last session. It's like 10:30 a.m. p.m. here. So we finished our last session earlier on, and he's in great form, underweight, and just ready to fight now.
What does the last session involve?
It's low intensity, more of a sweat out. Rehearsing the things, technique, keep the technique right. Mentally, just finally drill the last few things, but at a low intensity, just so where he's sweating and that's all. Like the day before yesterday, we had our last really hard, intense session. But yeah, he's sharp. He should put in a good performance.
Would this be the stage of the week? Would there be a point in the week when you would realise if there wasn't sharpness there? I think this kind of feeds into the conversation we're going to have later on with Anthony Joshua. If there is something wrong that the audience can sometimes be shocked with, I presume the coach can spot it during the week before he actually gets into the ring.
Well, I was like, Jason came over here on Thursday of last week. I didn't get over here until Sunday night because I had commitments with commentary for Frampton's fight. And he trained every day when he was here, but even in those spaces, a few days when I wasn't here, I could see he picked up a couple of little things that kind of bad habits that he'd had before.
Right.
Started to creep in, so just had to iron those out and get him back on form. And towards the end of the first session we did, he was back sharp, and then the day before yesterday, he was flying, absolutely smashing the pads, and everything was perfect, fully focused. And then today was just a complete sweat out and a mental rehearsal more than a physical exertion, you know. So yeah, like easy take your eye off the ball and let all bad habits creep back in.
I presume those bad habits are something that, as a fighter, you don't necessarily spot yourself. You just kind of need your coach or somebody on the outside to actually spot them.
I think so, yeah. I think when you're in there, you feel comfortable, you feel good, but it takes someone. It's even like a small thing, like keeping his shoulders loose. And with Jason, with his front foot, he'll step with his heel instead of his toe. And that's something, when you're in there and everything else, like the punches you're throwing and the punches that come back at you and where you're moving, and small little things like that, they're easy to go under the radar and you let slip, you know. So all those small details you have to keep reminding him, and he'll Jason recognises it as soon as I say it. I don't even have to finish the sentence and he knows he's already doing it.
Right. Abraham Cordero is the opponent. It's live in the Zone tomorrow night. Is there kind of an expectancy that from Jason himself to put in a big performance? Is this an opponent that strikes any fear in him, or what's the picture going into tomorrow night's fight?
It's a tough one for Jason, I think, because he's coming back off a loss, and so your confidence is always low. But with that, there's pressure on him too to look good and to remind people how good he is. I've certainly said that to him. Like, it's important that you look good in this fight and that you put on a performance, a dominating performance. Corrado is tough. He's experienced. I don't think he'd pose much of a threat to Jason technically. But the question is how Jason can win the fight easy, but it's how he goes about doing it and how he looks while he's doing it is the question. And I think once he gets the first couple of rounds out of the way, he gets back in there, starts feeling better or good. I think you just go for the gears then. So, yeah, I expect if he can reproduce what he does in the gym, he doesn't have any performance anxiety, then he should stop Corrado, or at least dominate him every round.
Yeah, it helps hugely that he's been fighting over there for such a long time. He knows that the aim of the game is not just to win these bouts, it is to win it in style, it is to get knockouts for the United States crowd.
Yeah, and look, for Jason now, he's 27, 28, and he's 17 fights into his career, and he's not a prospect anymore. He's kind of in this nowhere where he's not a prospect. He's got a one defeat, and he has to not take chances, but he has to start making some noise about it for himself, get people excited about him, and put his name up there with the contenders of the division, because he hasn't got too much longer left. Where this window, the next year is very important for Jason, that he keeps performing well and push on for a title, because if not, he'll just drift off and become just, not even a contender, but somebody who had potential but didn't make it, So it's a crucial time for his career. But saying that, if he does have a good performance tomorrow and then another one after that, he will be excited about him, because he has a lot to offer. He's an exciting fighter at his best, and it won't be long before he will be knocked on the door again at a world title.
That's the thing, the 160-pound division, huge challenges across the board, but also huge opportunities that it comes with. So, from just speaking to Jason a couple of times on the show, I know you guys have had him on off the brawl a bit more than I would have spoken to him. It just seems that he is the type of person who would thrive under that sort of pressure, who the bigger picture actually really means a lot to him and would drive him forward to a better performance tomorrow night. Yeah,
he's so close. At this moment, when he lost to Torino Johnson, you'd think that he's a million miles away, but he's not. He's only 2-3 fights away from being back where he was, and if not even better position than he was before the Johnson fight. And look at the champions of the division. Obviously, Canelo's the big one. Golovkin, Andrade. There's also a Golden Boy promoted fighter called Ryu Murata, who's an Olympian Japanese fighter who holds a title in his division. So that's a very easy fight to make for Jason, because it's the same promotion. So Jason's only 2-3 fights away, and he'll be challenging those guys. If Jason was fighting Murata tomorrow, I'd give Jason a good chance of beating him.
Well, that's what we like to hear. We're going to get on to Joshua against Ruiz. Hopefully we will chat to yourself or Jason after a big win later on in the week. But we do want to chat about Joshua-Ruiz 2.0 at this point. Almost the difficult second album from Anthony Ruiz going into this weekend. This is a situation where he's obviously been held up now as overnight one of the most famous boxers in the world. There's talks and there is signs of a physique change. Are you worried at all about his mindset going into this, about trying to follow this up when the stakes are a little bit higher?
That's a good analogy, the second album, Maybe he's used all his hits on the first one, and now the record label is looking for a big hit on the second one. But the question of his mentality, he was very hungry with the first one because he was unknown and didn't have any financial security. And when you give those things to a fighter, it can either excel you and raise you up and make you better, or it can have the opposite effect where you start to believe the hype. You think the first fight was easy. You don't give your opponent much credit, as in Joshua, and you start to relax a little bit because, Marvin Hagler said it's hard to get up and run at 5 a.m. when you're wearing silk pajamas. But he strikes me as a guy who, he doesn't kind of take anything, he takes it all in his stride, isn't he? He's very he doesn't seem to, the weight of the situation doesn't seem to affect him. He just seems pretty happy fella. and that's probably the right approach to have. But it's it's an intriguing fight. It's a really, really interesting fight, and obviously it's the biggest fight of the year, probably in a long time. In the heavyweight division, obviously we had Wilder and Fury last year, but this one involves like a lot of the belts, all except one. So it's probably, I don't know, Tyson and Lewis back in whenever that was, 05, 04. That was like the last in terms of global attention for a fight, a heavyweight fight. This is probably the biggest since that. And it's, in terms of it being a contest, it's very intriguing too, because we all know what happened the first time around, but who can make the adjustment? Can Joshua change? Can he fight a different fight? Will he be able to hold his nerve? Or will Ruiz just do the same thing? You know, it's an intriguing style, match of styles.
It's very, very intriguing stylistically, but even just to go back to that weight point, it seems that they've both changed a little bit. According to Eddie Hearn, there is a good bit of weight shed from Anthony Joshua at this point. Like, I know Hearn is obviously there to big up a fight always, but he said he was 17 stone 10 in the first fight, but he's much, much lighter now. I think he'll weigh in around 17 stone 2 pounds. He's not been pumping weights. He's been watching his diet, eating really clean. This camp has been 15 or 16 weeks, not 10 or 11 as normal. He's been sparring. I would say, Andy, that diet and eating really clean and sparring should probably be part of your camp, regardless of the stakes of a fight.
Yeah, but it's sometimes there's so much emphasis put on the other aspects of boxing, and they can take place. And
true.
In terms of jumping, and they've said he's taken down his jumping. He's kind of back to an old school way of training. And I think that would be very good for him, because he hasn't got a lot of experience. You forget, he's still learning. He's still started boxing late, won the Olympic heavyweight title. Really, when I don't know, like the Cuban probably beat him in the final. The finals were in London, the Olympics were in London, and they probably gave him the decision. And then he was propelled in his 17th fight. He fought for a world title. Guys are getting an education, and most of them don't fight for a world title until like the 27th fight, 26th fight. He fought for a world title in his 17th fight. Education in terms of a boxer has been stunted, and that was apparent outside. You could see that he hasn't got those instincts that are embedded and ingrained in you that you learn from a young age when you're boxing all the time. I've had there was some sort of controversy from people who don't know, but when Robin Cracken said, I knew my fighter was concussed in the corner when he talked about Joshua, and there was that was a quote that went around the world, like boxing, a fighter fighting concussed. But look, I've had fights like that myself where I've been knocked down, and it's not until 4 or 5 rounds later where you realise you're actually in a fight, but somehow you've gotten through the previous 5 rounds because you have instincts built up. And he doesn't have those instincts, Joshua. So I think him going back to a training camp where he's sparring a lot, and it can only be good for him. It can only be good. And he's never given a reason why he underperformed or an excuse. He's never. But I listened to an interview with him today, and he came as close as he ever did to giving a reason. And we were saying that, and it's quite valid, that he was preparing for another guy, Jarrell Miller, who failed a drug test, I think 3 weeks before the Ruiz fight. So they had to find a replacement. And Miller is a big guy, 6'5", big, huge guy. And then he comes down to fight Ruiz, who's 6'2", maybe 6'1", and completely different style. And so there was a change in sparring partners in terms of the height and stature and their styles. And he said, he didn't say it outright, but I could tell by the words without saying it, that he had a hard time adjusting to Ruiz's style in the ring because it wasn't what he was seeing every day in training, preparing for Miller. So this time he would have brought in sparring partners. I know he brought in Derek Chisora and other high quality sparring partners, and that will be a good thing for him. That will definitely be benefits to that. He looks smaller, he looks lighter, and he looks to me like a fella who's going to jab and box his way to that'll be his game plan. Not to get involved, not to trade, not to hook with Ruiz, but to throw a jab. And See, Ruiz has this ability, and if you watch the first fight, where he'll pick shots, where he'll walk Joshua down, and he'll take Joshua's punches away from him by picking them with his hands, and almost like you're doing pads, and blocking them on his forearms. And then when he can use that to get into range, and then he'll throw his rapid fire hooks. Where Joshua can use his jab this time, instead of committing to the jab or over committing to the jab, use it as a rangefinder and as an occupier for Ruiz's pick. So he'll throw out 2 jabs. Ruiz will look to pick them, but they'll only be decoys. They'll only be occupying Ruiz, and then look for him to throw the right hand behind it or double jab and then turn it into a hook. Which Joshua did have success with a long left hook in the first fight. So we'll see. I just think that's the way he's going to fight. He's going to box and move, try to nullify Ruiz early in the fight and take him into the late rounds. Hopefully, and I think he'll try and get a stoppage late in the fight.
It's interesting that you mentioned that about the style of Andy Ruiz really harming Anthony Joshua the last time out, because I think it completely fits into what you also said there in that answer about the fact that Anthony Joshua is still going through an education of boxing late in his career, that somebody almost needs to sit him down and give him the stencil. This is exactly how Andy Ruiz is going to approach this fight, and this is how you need to box against it, that he still needs to be thought and told exactly what to do almost, especially when it comes to style in the boxing ring. He's clearly got the physique, he's clearly got the technique. It's just the style almost when he gets in there that's required. And if his coach is giving a very clear message like you've given to Off the Ball viewers just there about how to achieve a win this weekend, you'd imagine that Joshua has the superior talent to be able to execute that. Have I oversimplified the chances in the fight?
Look, that's all well and good, but then you have to think about what Ruiz is going to do. And what Ruiz did in the first fight, which was very effective, he kept jabbing Joshua to the body and to the chest.
Yeah.
And that slowly broke Joshua down, because there was only a few really heavy headshots landed before the eventual breaking down of Joshua. But he was constantly jabbing to the body, jabbing hard to the body and to the chest, and I don't think Joshua was prepared for that. Talk about conditioning. It's a different conditioning. There's one condition, like we talk about conditioning, and people say, how is Joshua not in condition? Look at the shape he's in, look at the physique he's in. There's fitness and there's conditioning, but then there's also boxing fitness, and that's completely different. It's completely different. Like, you can do all the weights, all the running, all the bag work you want, but then when you get in there and spar, you're still as tired as you are. And you still have to build up that sparring condition. Like, look at McGregor and Mayweather. You can't find a better specimen of a man than Conor McGregor. Look at the shape he's in. Look how, the condition he's in. But he's not boxing condition. So what happened to him? He started off well, but then he got tired, and Mayweather knew that. Mayweather just took his time, walked him down, made Conor McGregor work, and then he got tired and gassed out. So there's a different conditioning for boxing. So that's why I was saying also that Joshua taking away his strength and conditioning and put more emphasis on boxing is a good thing for him. But both men know that. I think Joshua knows if he can box a disciplined fight, keep his emotions in check, that he can win. And obviously Andy Ruiz knows he can win. So it is. It's just I can't call it. I can't. It's one of those fights where you just can't call it. You can see either man winning.
Right. He's 2-1, Andy Ruiz this time. We're just looking at this. He's still a fairly heavy outsider, but still, when you look at the punditry and you look at the experts, nobody's making him a 2-1 outsider when it comes to the predictions.
And it's look at that. I just even think about Joshua, the first fight. His behaviour was bizarre in a lot of ways, and it was like he was having an out-of-body experience.
Right.
Because you remember, even before the first bell, there was a lot of waiting in the ring, but he was just standing there and he's kind of biting on his gum shield, poking it out of his mouth. He had his hands land on the ropes. He wasn't warming up. He wasn't bouncing around or focused at all. He was looking around the ring. And then obviously he got dropped. And twice, 2 previous rounds after that, he asked his coach, what did I get hit with? What was the punch? And what should I do? What's he going to, he was very vocal in the corner. I think you're going to see a lot more focus at Anthony Joshua in this fight. He already looks more focused. But I'm just tossing it in my own head, and I still can't call it. I still can't see a win. I just don't know who's going to win this fight, and that's what makes it so intriguing and interesting. And you can easily see Ruiz going out there and breaking him down again. walking him down, taking his shots, jabbing to the body, jabbing hard, going hard to the body with the right hand, and picking his moment. Because the first fight, it wasn't like a one punch. It wasn't a lucky punch. It was a punch that started it. But after that, there was a systematic breakdown. And Joshua had moments where he could have recovered, had moments where he could have maybe knocked Ruiz out, and still had some success after the first knockdown. But Ruiz just took his time and was patient and broke him down, methodically broke him down. So you could easily see that happening again.
Andy Lee there, according to Duncan McRae, one of the best pundits in these islands, speaking about any sport. So that was his preview of his own charges fight overnight. Well, is it overnight tonight or is it overnight Friday morning? We'll get to hear how
Friday morning.
Quigley is done. So Friday
Donald
morning.
McRae, I hope.
Donald McRae.
Well, I would also respect Duncan McRae's opinion on Andy Lee's a pundit.
He probably thinks Raj is the best pundit, does he? Yeah. A Freudian slip. Not the first Freudian slip on the show today.
Mine wasn't Freudian, mine was just idiotic.
Do you think you'll ever be able to go back to Kerry?
No.
A notorious Republican hotspot?
No. I need to flee this country immediately.
Yeah.
Go north of the border, am I right?
Well...
that's not helping my case here, is it? That was a joke.
Over to the mainland, I think, is the phrase you're looking for. Again, physically and literally, metaphorically distancing myself from my former colleague, Eoin Sheahan. Eoin, you've been all over this Mayo story like a rash. Done some of your best work outside the closed doors of a county board meeting.
Closed no more, it turns out. A vote was passed to allow media back into the county board meetings, which I guess is no bad thing because there was no difference really, was there? The information was always getting out.
Exactly. It served no purpose, only to add fuel to the fire. But what normally happens in stories like this is that it gets taken behind closed doors, conversations happen, a deal gets done, something gets worked out. In this instance, that is not happening. This is now a towering inferno because there's more news overnight. Tim O'Leary, the millionaire English benefactor who has been giving Mayo money, fundraising for them in the US, and who yesterday or 2 days ago came out with the offer of, his organisation came out with the offer of fundraising up to $1 million for Mayo if certain criteria were met. They put that offer out there. They didn't get a response to it. Subsequent to that, he's now saying he wants his 150 grand back that he gave in 2018 in 2 instalments. In 2018, he gave them under strict instruction that it would be spent solely for the benefit of the county's senior football team. And now he says he wants that money back, and if it's not returned within 21 days, he'll be taking legal action and forwarding the matter to the Garda. Now, that's like a serious ratcheting up of intensity in this whole conversation. It's been a row about where money was spent up to this. Now it's a row to try and recover funds that had been given to Mayo County Board with the express intention that it will be used to benefit the senior inter-county team.
Yeah, Arthur's got the piece up on offtheball.com on the latest on this, but basically the solicitor's letter that has now been made public claims that the Mayo County Board assembled a load of receipts and sent them to O'Leary by way of showing him where the money went, but O'Leary is not satisfied with that and is demanding greater clarity and proof that it went to the senior inter-county team. And if that's not the case, then legal action will take place. And 21 days, of course, is Christmas Eve, so it could be a fairly messy Christmas for those involved in Mayo GAA.
Who's Tiny Tim and who's Scrooge in this Christmas carol?
Tim O'Leary is obviously Scrooge.
Well, he's given all the money already.
True. That is, I would say...
Do you know what I mean?
It is, here's, you deserved coal for Christmas, but I bought you a PlayStation 4. Now give me back that PlayStation 4 is how the story is going. And there's a case to be made that he deserves his PlayStation 4 back.
This list is the good list, this list is the naughty list, and Mayo County Board are currently on the naughty list. So all they've got to do is flip over here.
And Tim O'Leary is most certainly their Santa Claus.
So there was supposed to be a meeting between the top brass of the GAA, who were going to intervene and talk to the International Fundraising Board, i.e. Tim O'Leary and his crowd. But that meeting has not yet taken place due to disagreements about the venue.
That is unusual. That is very unusual because there was confusion on the day of the event as to whether it would take place in Croke Park, and then people were suggesting it actually might take place down the country. So we're not quite sure why that wasn't agreed to well in advance. So that is a whole other element in this that Croke Park have.
Does it really matter where it happens?
It doesn't matter whatsoever. I just do remember that was part of the confusion on the day. Like, it wasn't a big thing because who cares about the venue? But I remember it being mentioned on the day of the initial meeting was supposed to take place. People being like, where is it on?
Yeah, this all seems a little bit like restoring the institutions of power in the north at the moment. Like, talks about talks as opposed to, like, they just need to meet. They could meet at Barack Obama Plaza. They could meet anywhere, right?
Great neutral ground for West and East coming together. Like, it's Croke Park really just have to wait in and actually find out what's going on here, and like, but they have like we were under the impression going into this week that they had taken a look at things and have formulated some sort of an opinion on it, and we thought that things might start to get resolved.
Yeah. Why? At some point, does this begin to have an impact on the team?
Well, you can imagine
that, like, it has become laughingstock territory months ago. Like, partly aided by the fact that some of the characters involved were doing as much as they can to pour fuel on the fire as opposed to douse it. Interesting choice of music for the Underdogs game.
I can't not see it having an impact on the inter-county team if it continues in this vein. See, even the mere notion of this argument, like, it's a mini, I don't want to use the word war, it's like a civil disagreement within Mayo at the moment. Like, who's right and who's wrong here? Like, players walking down the street, getting asked by people for their opinion on it. You better be careful what you say, because this is cut deep. Like, there's a lot of people that we know that, even from doing a report down there, like big names that won't go on the record talking about this. Players obviously are in the same boat, but even on a private level, the conversations they're having, they're probably treading fairly carefully around this. It's just a really awkward situation. That's not, it definitely isn't helping. And the longer this goes on, the more chance it has of actually manifesting itself in some sort of negative outcome in the teams and their performances. And then the bigger picture here, obviously, is how much did Mayo GAA think that they were depending on this money, and how much is the senior team depending on this 150,000 that may need to be returned or whatever. So
right, we are way over time. That story just breaking in the last little while there. So it is 21 days for Mayo, Christmas Eve, for them to reimburse the €150,000 donation that English businessman Tim O'Leary gave to them in 2018. And if they don't, he has threatened legal action. So we'll keep an eye on that story. I have a feeling there'll be a resolution before Christmas Eve, but as and when it happens, just follow the hashtag Mayo Leaks. We'll keep an eye on that one for you. One last thing to remind you about, it is Ireland versus the All Blacks in Chicago versus Shane Lowry, and it's 78-22, an early streak for Shane Lowry. But who knows, maybe there's room for the rugby fans to make a comeback for that one. You can also vote on Instagram. Just follow us on Instagram, @OffTheBall. And on our stories, you can click and vote on that one. We'll be back tomorrow, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Loads of good stuff coming your way. And we'll talk to you then. Good luck.
OTB AM. This is OTB.